Chapter 1827. In his previous life, the immortal monarch had left Jiang Tian in the Saint Origin continent and taught him a set of basic cultivation techniques. Then, he went straight into the depths of the central galaxy. Perhaps, he had gone to the Nine Heavens immortal realm and disappeared. Jiang Tian lived alone in the Saint Origin world for a long time. In the Saint Origin world, Jiang Tian's luck was excellent. He was like the chosen one, always able to obtain some fortuitous encounters and treasures. At that time, Jiang Tian still didn't understand what was going on. Now, he naturally knew that it was the immortal monarch and the other big shots behind the scenes who had left Zhao Xueqing to become an immortal. And before Zhao Xueqing committed suicide, she had transferred the immortal monarch's luck to Jiang Tian. Anyway, although Jiang Tian was an itinerant cultivator, he advanced very quickly. 100 years later, he successfully reached the nascent soul stage and became one of the few heavenly lords among itinerant cultivators. During those 100 years, Jiang Tian struggled in the cold and cruel world of cultivation. He felt endless coldness and bone-piercing coldness. Once he became a nascent soul heavenly lord, everything changed. He was chosen by the Tian Luo sect and became an elite disciple. The person who welcomed Jiang Tian into the sect was Yan Nanxian, who was already an elder of the Tian Luo sect. The Tian Luo sect was one of the top 10 divine sects in the Saint Origin world. It had a long history of hundreds of thousands of years. No matter if it was cultivation techniques or cultivation resources, they were all innumerable. The fact that Jiang Tian could become an elite disciple was no different from a carp leaping through the dragon gate. More importantly, there were dozens of elders in the Tian Luo sect who were at the soul formation realm and an ancestral patriarch who was at the void return realm. The sect was full of powerful cultivators and disciples. Jiang Tian, who was alone, had found a powerful backer. Of course, he was very grateful to Yan Nanxian. Zhao Feifei was also an elite disciple and she seemed to have a good impression of Jiang Tian. However, Jiang Tian only wanted to improve his cultivation at that time. Naturally, he didn't care about her and politely rejected her. Yan Nanxian's son, Yan Beifei, was already a hall master of the Tian Luo sect and was half a step away from the soul formation realm. Moreover, he was deeply in love with his childhood sweetheart, Zhao Feifei. Naturally, he hated Jiang Tian to the bone and repeatedly bullied and targeted him. At that time, Jiang Tian's cultivation was inferior to his. Furthermore, he was grateful to Yan Beifei for recognizing his worth. He could only endure it. After Yan Nanxian found out about the conflict between the two, he tried to uphold justice by severely punishing his son, Yan Beifei. He also took extra care of Jiang Tian and gave him many cultivation resources and techniques. He even wanted to preside over the marriage between Jiang Tian and Zhao Feifei. Although Jiang Tian had rejected the marriage, it still made Jiang Tian very grateful. He saw Yan Nanxian as his second parent and trusted him very much. But 5 years later, Jiang Tian found out that it was all a conspiracy. At that time, Jiang Tian was very cautious and had no confidence in human nature. It turned out that when he was in seclusion to break through, he was always looking for some desolate and unknown forbidden places. But when he was about to break through, he did not reject the protection of Yan Nanxian and the other two. But when he was at the most critical moment of his breakthrough, Yan Nanxian and the other two brazenly attacked. They wanted to destroy his soul and seize the opportunity to possess him. It turned out that Yan Nanxian's physical body was once injured and his lifespan was almost exhausted. He only treated Jiang Tian as a room. Previously, he had given many benefits just to push Jiang Tian's cultivation up as soon as possible so that he could possess him as soon as possible. His grace to Jiang Tian was just to dispel his wariness. Because of Jiang Tian's luck and his reckless fighting, he was able to luckily escape. However, it was still a narrow escape, and he walked on the edge of life and death. Although Jiang Tian escaped, Yan Nanxian was still very angry. He killed Jiang Tian's family and friends. At that time, Jiang Tian had a best friend in Yellow Maple City called Lin Yang. Lin Yang was the son of the city lord. The Lin family was also an aristocratic family that had produced a soul formation expert. Lin Yang's status could be said to be noble and high. But he did not look down on Jiang Tian at all just because Jiang Tian was a cultivator from a peripheral star region. When Jiang Tian was still a small foundation establishment cultivator, he took in the injured Jiang Tian. The two of them exchanged cultivation experiences together, or went outside the city to hunt demon beasts to obtain cultivation resources. He even joked that he wanted to marry his sister to Jiang Tian and become Jiang Tian's brother-in-law. But because Yan Nanxian wanted to vent his anger, he led the army of the sect and directly destroyed Yellow Maple City. Hundreds of people in the Lin family were brazenly exterminated just because Lin Yang was Jiang Tian's friend. Even the thousands of commoners in Yellow Maple City had been slaughtered. During the war, the severely injured Lin Takong was extremely sad and angry. He questioned Yan Nanxian about the Lin family's crime. Why did the Tian Luo sect destroy the city? Yan Nanxian only had one sentence: you took in Kong Te Chu. Then, he slapped Lin Takong to death. After Jiang Tian received the news that the Lin family had been exterminated, he did not dare to take revenge at all. He lived in fear for several years until he found an opportunity to escape to the continent of the Nine Clouds. Only then did he feel relieved. That period of time was a nightmare for Jiang Tian. He was tortured by self-doubt and guilt. He woke up from nightmares countless times. His eyes were wide open and he could not sleep or meditate. When he closed his eyes, it was as if he could see the Lin family's ancestor, Lin Yang, and the others questioning Jiang Tian why he did not avenge them. 100 years later, the immortal emperor remembered Jiang Tian. Jiang Tian entered the Hengyu celestial sect. After reaching the soul formation stage, he destroyed the Tian Luo sect and killed Yan Nanxian and the others. But now, Yan Nanxian was only a half-step soul formation stage cultivator. Jiang Tian could kill him with a finger. However, Jiang Tian still did not take action. He went to the continent of Saint Origin to wait for the birth of a celestial material that could help him reach the soul formation stage. Yan Nanxian was different from Qin Xiong. The sect leader of the Tian Luo sect was much more powerful than Qin Xiong's Grand Sky sect. His status was also much higher. Once he was killed, the Tian Luo sect would do everything they could to track down Jiang Tian. Even the Saint Realm Great Ancestor would take action. Before that, Jiang Tian did not want to alert the enemy and complicate matters. After he got the celestial material, destroying the Tian Luo sect was just a matter of minutes. Senior Yen. Leader Yen. Seeing Yan Nanxian and the other two enter, the crowd was in an uproar. Many people, including Yang Wu and the others, saluted and flattered. Jiang Tian also saluted. Meanwhile, Sun Nian also ran out and nodded at Jiang Tian with an indiscernible degree. Then, he bowed deeply to Yan Nanxian and said, "Sun Nian greets Yan Nanxian." Yan Nanxian smiled faintly, making people feel as if they were bathed in the spring breeze. He did not have any arrogance as he smiled and said, "Boss Sun, is everyone here? Can we leave now?" Of course. When Leader Yen arrives, it will be the auspicious time to leave. With Senior Yan Nanxian holding the fort, this journey will definitely be smooth sailing. Sun Nian had a fawning expression on his face. His words were so sweet that they seemed to be smeared with honey. "Ha, Boss Sun, you have such a sweet mouth. No wonder you are so popular in Jiayuan City." Yan Nanxian smiled and patted Sun Nian's shoulder. "I can only make a living because of the kindness of all the seniors who took care of me." Sun Nian smiled and whistled. Suddenly, a carriage that was about 100 meters long came across the sky like a long snake. There were countless talisman inscriptions on the carriage. They emitted a bright light and dermic powers flowed. Pegasi with 10-meter-long wings and white manes fluttered in the air. They looked up to the sky and neighed. They looked incomparably majestic and were pulling the carriage with the reins of the laws. This kind of Pegasi was extremely rare. They naturally controlled the laws of space and had the bloodline of a divine beast. One of them was priceless. At this moment, whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Cultivators on swords flew over and surrounded the entire carriage. Their robes were embroidered with the words, Grand Sky Sect. Suddenly, the surrounding people exclaimed with fear in their eyes. The leader of the half-step soul formation cultivators looked down and shouted, "Who is the itinerant cultivator, Siqing? Stand out." Sun Yan's heart skipped a beat. Was the matter exposed? Chapter 1828. Sun Yan lowered his head and didn't dare to say a word. Not only him, but the other cultivators on the bus were also panicking. This half-step divine transformation realm cultivator was no small matter. He was the vice-sect master of the heavenly sect, Lei Qianjun. In the Saint Origin world, he was also an overlord. His status was high and lofty, and he looked down on the common people. The other cultivators on the sword were all nascent soul cultivators, elders, or hall leaders. Normal cultivators wouldn't dare to offend them. Jiang Tian took a step forward and said with a faint smile, "I am." Yesterday, our outer sect elder Chen Xiong took you to our hotel, but he suddenly disappeared and his soul tablet was destroyed. Where did he go? Please enlighten me. Lei Qianjun stared at Jiang Tian with murderous intent. Clang! Clang! The other cultivators of the Haotian sect were also filled with murderous intent. They all took out their Dharma treasures. Suddenly, the Dharma treasures flashed and a vast amount of Dharma powers came crashing down. Many cultivators retreated in fear. What? Elder Chen Xiong is dead? Everyone exclaimed. Sun Yan wiped his tears in an even more exaggerated manner and said, "Fellow Taoist Chen Xiong has always been kind and benevolent. Which villainous person dares to attack him?" Senior. Jiang Tian said calmly. Elder Chen Xiong did want to take me to the hotel, but he suddenly used an escape art to leave the city. I don't know what happened. But outside the city, I met Li Ludao, who claimed to be the son of the city lord. Senior Chen Xiong said that he had something to discuss with him, so he asked me to find a hotel and leave with Li Ludao. I'm not familiar with this place and I don't know where the hotel is, so I had to find a hotel to stay in. Blue Wave City and Yellow Maple City are neighbors. Between the two is a Xianji forest, which is rich in natural resources. Spirit grasses and orchids are everywhere. The Lin family and Li Liudao's family often fight for this territory because Jiang Tian used to be the Lin family's guard. In his previous life, Li Ludao also often bullied Jiang Tian. Li Ludao was naturally the best scapegoat. According to the time, Li Ludao should have just reached the Golden Core realm. I'm sorry, but you can't take the blame. You can only be killed by Lei Qianjun. Lei Qianjun remained silent as he carefully scrutinized Jiang Tian for a long time. Suddenly, he said coldly, "Give me your storage magic artifact and let me inspect it. In addition, open your divine soul for me to search." At this moment, Yan Nancian suddenly sneered and said, "Lei Qianjun, don't be noisy here. Can't you see that the bus is about to depart?" Hall Master Yan, I'm really sorry for disturbing you. Lei Qianjun bowed deeply with a humble expression. But yesterday, Chen Xiong was not the only one. Even the Blood Monk and Xia Yunting, two elites of the sect, died together. Moreover, their souls were extinguished in less than a breath. To our humble sect, this is a huge loss and a great humiliation. Fellow Taoist Si Qing was one of the last people Chen Xiong saw. She was naturally extremely suspicious. How could this junior not investigate clearly? It can't be. This guy is so powerful and ruthless. Hearing this, everyone looked at Jiang Tian in disbelief. Then, they quickly retreated dozens of meters away, drawing a clear line between them and Jiang Tian, afraid that they would be implicated. Even though Zhao Feifei didn't step back, she also looked at Jiang Tian with her eyes wide open. Chen Xiong, Blood Monk Tu Ju, and Xia Yunting were all nascent soul heavenly lords who had been through hundreds of battles. Their nascent souls were all at the peak of their nascent souls. How could this brat be so capable that he could kill them instantly? Yan Nancian looked surprised. He examined Jiang Tian for a while and suddenly smiled. Xiqing should be a nascent soul cultivator. If he can kill 3 high-grade nascent soul cultivators, he can only be a sacred-grade nascent soul cultivator. But look at his energy. How can he be a sacred-grade nascent soul cultivator? Reporting to Senior Lei, this junior would be so bold as to say something fair. This is the first time Xiqing came to planet Juma from the Black Sun Galaxy. She doesn't know anything about this place. How could she know about the Azure Wave City of the Divine Origin World and Li Ludao? Sun Nian also smiled and bowed. Lei Qianjun exchanged a few glances with the few elders and hall masters around him, communicating with each other through their divine senses. Suddenly, he bowed deeply and said, "Hall Master Yan, I apologize for my rudeness. We will leave now. Have a safe trip, Senior. Sorry for bothering you today. We'll visit you another day to apologize." Yan Nancian waved his hand, indicating that it was okay. Then, Lei Qianjun left with many cultivators. Fierce discussions came from afar. So Li Ludao is the most suspicious. No. Li Ludao can't do that, but the ancestral patriarch of the Li family is a half-step soul formation cultivator. Only he could kill so many cultivators in an instant. Damn it. How dare they bully the heavenly sect? Kill them all. Sun Yan calmed down and said with a smile, "It's just a false alarm. Let's get on the train." "Xiqing, you're from the Black Sun Galaxy too." "So am I. I'm Guochuandong." In the process of going through the security check, a fatty beside Jiang Tian suddenly pulled on his sleeve and said in a low voice, "Nice to meet you, Cultivator Gua. I didn't expect to meet you here." Jiang Tian grabbed the fatty's meaty hand and had a teary expression on his face, as if he was a fellow townsman. "Xiqing, do you have any other titles? How come I've never seen or heard of you?" Guochuandong scratched his head and said with a confused smile. The Black Sun Galaxy was also a desolate place. There were only a few nascent soul cultivators in the past few hundred years. Guochuandong knew almost all of them. As soon as Guochuandong said that, Jiang Tian immediately felt a faint immortal will covering him. Could it be that Yan Nancian is already preparing to search for a residence? Jiang Tian didn't take it to heart at all. Although he didn't want to alert the enemy, if Yan Nancian made a move now, he naturally wouldn't mind killing him with a slap. Thus, he smiled faintly and said, "The martial world is dangerous. Who doesn't change their identities frequently? How can they show others so easily? Identity? What's that?" Guochuandong was puzzled. Then, they went through the security check together. There were at least 2 half-heavenly lords at the inspection station in front of the carriage. There was also a mirror hanging in the air. As long as someone stood under it, the mirror would immediately reflect the person's true appearance, cultivation, race, bloodline, and other information. There was a guard at every step. Normally, nascent soul cultivators would show their true appearance at the first checkpoint. And it was said that the checkpoints in the divine origin world were even stricter. Jiang Tian was the opposite. He had become a nascent soul cultivator in the divine realm and his energy was restrained to the extreme. He looked like an ordinary person, so he had to release his energy. The mirror almost didn't reflect Jiang Tian's golden core level. It could only tell that he was a human, but it didn't know anything else. Yan Nancian, who had already boarded the carriage, turned around in confusion, wondering if the mirror was broken. In the end, about 100 people entered the carriage together. Chapter 1829. The carriage was long and narrow, about 100 meters long and 20 meters wide. For example, Jiang Tian and Guochuandong had only spent 100 million crystal stones to buy a middle-class seat. Each of them had a small room that could only fit 3 or 4 people. The lower-class seats were even more cramped. There were no private rooms, so they could only sit cross-legged there. Other than that, there were also a few first-class seats with spirit-gathering arrays and soundproof seals. Yan Nancian and the other 2 were sitting in such seats. Guo Chuandong's room was very close to Jiang Tian's room. Since Guo Chuandong was very familiar with Jiang Tian, he didn't want to leave after entering Jiang Tian's room. With a face full of expectation, Guo Chuandong said, "We will arrive in Saint Origin World in 10 days. I heard that the spirit qi there is 100 times more abundant than in our ancestral planet. I think we can reach the soul formation realm from the nascent soul realm in 200 years. Jiang Tian shook his head and smiled bitterly. "You are too naive. My aptitude is average, but 500 years should be enough, right?" Guo Chuandong was so excited that the fat on his body shook. "Do you know that the spirit qi in the central galaxy is very uneven?" Jiang Tian wasn't in a hurry. He said with a faint smile. "Uneven? What do you mean?" Guo Chuandong pinched Jiang Beibei's soft cheeks, which made Jiang Beibei roll her eyes. She smiled and said, "Sister Xiqing, is this your daughter? She is so cute. Your partner must be very beautiful. Why don't I see her? We are separated for a while, but we will meet again someday." Jiang Tian didn't linger on this topic. He smiled and explained, "First of all, in the Saint Origin world, the top 10 great sects led by the Luoying sect and the Tian Luo sect are aloof from worldly affairs. They occupy famous mountains, great rivers, and blessed lands. They occupy large spiritual veins. They occupy 50% of the world's spiritual energy. Secondly, there are cultivation cities controlled by the cultivation royal families and the noble families. These cultivation cities are often built with large spirit gathering arrays as the foundation. They absorb all the spirit qi in a few thousand miles, or even tens of thousands of miles, like rivers flowing into the sea. This is where the spirit qi is abundant. In this city, there are also aristocratic families' mansions, cultivation rooms, and so on. The spiritual qi is even denser. In this way, apart from the sects and aristocratic families, even if the spiritual qi in other places is naturally abundant, it will become extremely thin due to this siphoning effect. It's not an exaggeration to say that the spiritual qi in the ordinary realms of the Saint Origin world might not even be as good as in our hometown." When Guo Chuandong heard this, he immediately became muddle-headed. He had heard from his ancestors and read from ancient books that Saint Origin World or Central Galaxy was the holy land of cultivation in the entire universe. Once one entered it, a breakthrough would be as easy as water flowing through a canal. He didn't expect it to be so complicated. "Then what should we do?" Guo Chuandong frowned and said, "I heard that those sects are very strict when it comes to selecting disciples. Nascent soul cultivators from remote star areas are nothing to them. Right, there are also the cities built by the imperial family and the aristocratic family. Can't we just enter the city directly? How can it be that easy?" Jiang Tian smiled leisurely. "As far as I know, all cultivation cities are strictly managed by cultivators. Either you spend a lot of money to buy a cultivation building or a palace to get a residence permit, or you rent a place with crystals and have the support of those companies and families to get a temporary residence permit. Otherwise, you won't be allowed to enter. It's very dangerous to live in a mortal city or wander in the wild. First of all, there are monsters everywhere. The chances of nascent soul cultivators dying are very high. Second, as far as I know, the boundary between the central galaxy and the fiend realm has been unstable in the past 100 years. Occasionally, there will be demonic waves, which are even more terrifying." "Damn! Is it that difficult?" "That's not what my ancestral patriarch said." Guo Chuandong screamed and couldn't wait to turn around and run away. However, he found that the sky steed's wings covered the sky and went straight into the deep space. The planet on the sky steed was rapidly shrinking. They had already entered the passage of the storm belt. "I want to go back to the ancestral planet. Isn't it good to be called the ancestral patriarch and be worshipped by thousands of people there? Why do I have to go to the Saint Origin world to suffer?" Guo Chuandong beat his chest and stamped his feet. It was impossible for him to go back now. Sun Yan would never go through all the trouble for him. "I've worked so hard to reach the nascent soul level and I can finally dominate the ancestral planet. However, my ancestral patriarch told me that there are soul formation grand cultivators, void returning saints and Tao reunion perfected immortals up there. It's not easy to cultivate. After a few hundred years of hard work, I thought I could finally enjoy life in the divine origin world. I didn't expect it to be so difficult. Guo Chuandong sat on a chair with a dull look in his eyes. He was very depressed and kept sighing. Looking at the dejected Guo Chuandong, Jiang Tian somehow found it funny. It was like studying hard in high school. The teachers always told you that as long as you got into college, your life would be smooth and everything would go smoothly. It was like the college entrance examination would solve all the problems in life. However, after entering college and society, you would realize that the college entrance examination was child's play compared to the beatings of society. Competition in the workplace, starting a business, buying a house, getting married, having a relationship, having a child, having parents growing old, having a midlife crisis. All the way to difficult mode, he had to continuously kill monsters and level up, and the college entrance exam was just a small hurdle, an insignificant monster. Life is always a struggle in the sea of bitterness. Since you've come to a wider world, there's no turning back. You should fight for a future and fight for your life. There's no reason to be afraid and retreat. There are risks and opportunities here, but there are more opportunities after all. My friend Guo, you should face them positively. Jiang Tian smiled encouragingly, as if encouraging himself as well. Coward. The large black dog sneered, forgetting how cowardly it usually was. Exactly. Jiang Beibei also rolled her eyes at him with disdain. You're right. Guo Chuandong slapped his thigh and his dim eyes lit up. There seemed to be a fire of fighting spirit in them. Actually, my aptitude is ordinary, and I don't have any background. I'm just a mortal. Back then, the ancestral patriarchs, the leaders, and even my parents didn't think much of me. They didn't give me many cultivation resources and the cultivation arts I practiced were mediocre. But with my diligence and courage, I ventured deep into the forbidden lands and risked my life again and again. Finally, I obtained some training resources, and my cultivation soared day by day. Eventually, I became the only person on the homeworld who entered the nascent soul stage within 1,000 years. No matter how difficult it is in the divine origin world, it's still much better than my ancestral planet where spirit chi is scarce. If you show the courage and perseverance that you used to have, you'll eventually be able to carve out a bloody path. Hee hee. It's good that you've thought it through. Jiang Tian revealed a gratified expression and nodded. Guo Chuandong patted his storage ring and took out a plate of chicken drumsticks. He smiled and said, Golden Core Stage Demonic Beast, cooked by the 5 Colors Peacock. Come, let's eat together. As he said that, he passed one to Jiang Beibei. Jiang Beibei beamed with joy. The large black dog was also drooling, and he happily started to eat. At this moment, a series of knocks came from the door. Jiang Tianxin waved his hand, and the door opened. Yang Wu walked in slowly, surrounded by a few cultivators in luxurious clothes. With his hands behind his back, he said arrogantly, I'll give you 100 million crystal stones, and you'll give up the private room. Also, don't eat. The stench is so overwhelming that even my Tao companion is disgusted. They bought the tickets late. There were no more mid-class seats, so they had to buy the low-class seats. However, the low-class seats were not only narrow, but also had no barriers or soundproofing. It was not safe. Yang Wu had just hooked up with a female cultivator from a remote galaxy and wanted to cultivate with her. Therefore, he had set his eyes on Jiang Tian and Guo Chuandong's room. I'm sorry. I don't lack money. I won't trade with you. Jiang Tian smiled and said. Chapter 1830. That's right. How many years have you been abstaining from food? Don't you know that ordinary food is not allowed in the carriage? Beside Yang Wu, a charming woman in a red dress fanned the flames and shouted, if you don't change seats, I will report to Sun Nian and Yan Nanxian. Let's see if anyone can maintain order and throw you out of the empty carriage. Seeing this, Guo Chuandong quickly put away the peacock leg, cupped his hands and smiled humbly, I'm sorry. I was hungry and couldn't help but eat a few mouthfuls. I don't want to eat anymore. Why don't I give you mine? I only need an extra 10 million low-grade crystal stones. This guy wanted to take the opportunity to make a fortune. There was indeed a rule that prohibited eating on the carriage, but it was not limited to the private rooms. But Guo Chuandong intended to keep the peace and did not argue about this. Okay. Let's sit in the same room. It will be more lively. Jiang Tian also stood up with a smile. As the saying goes, don't slap a smiling face. But Yang Wu did not intend to keep the peace. He came from a planet close to the central galaxy and his brother-in-law was also a prestigious existence in the Saint Origin continent. He had not learned how to hide his strength and bide his time. He had heard many stories about the elites of the sects in the Saint Origin continent. Now, he had already regarded himself as a member of a second-rate sect in the Saint Origin continent. The people he met were all ants from remote planets. Why should he hold back when he was in the right? So, Yang Wu smiled coldly and said, oh, that dog seemed to have spoken. It's not an ordinary beast, but a demonic beast. Fellow Taoist Xiqing, you are amazing. You brought a demonic beast on the carriage. You must be backed by a spirit-severing realm cultivator. You must be kidding. We will leave now. Just give us the original price. Guo Chuandong was scared and did not dare to raise the price. Yang Wu was different from him. He already had a foothold in the Saint Origin continent. It was said that his brother-in-law was already a spirit-severing realm cultivator. Guo Chuandong could not afford to offend him. Unexpectedly, Yang Wu said arrogantly, I changed my mind. I will give you both the private rooms. I will not give you any crystals. Otherwise, if you bring a filthy demonic beast into the carriage, it will be a great taboo. I'm afraid you will be thrown out immediately. A small fry from a remote village dares to cause trouble here. In fact, the big black dog had indeed gone through a safety check. This was because only bloodthirsty and violent primitive demonic beasts were allowed to pass through the security check. If the demonic beasts had been tamed, they would not be included. However, Yang Wu believed that as long as he reported it, Sun Nian would definitely give him face. However, after hearing those words, Jiang Tian, who had already stood up, suddenly sat back down. He sat cross-legged in meditation, calm and composed. Close the door and let the dog out. Just as Yang Wu was puzzled, Jiang Tian suddenly spat out a few words. How can we do that? Guo Chuandong was shocked. They came from a remote and desolate place, and they were like duckweeds in the water. How could they afford to offend an existence like Yang Wu? Although Yang Wu was only a golden core cultivator, his companions were the elites of their planet. All of them had reached the peak of the nascent soul stage, and they were all at the peak of the nascent soul stage. Besides, even if Jiang Tian was lucky enough to win, when he arrived at the Saint Origin continent, wouldn't he win the bloody and cruel revenge of the other side? Bullshit. As if he had been greatly insulted, he burst out in disgust. His dantian rumbled and his golden core trembled. A vast amount of true essence surged toward Jiang Tian to suppress him. Don't bleed. I have to clean it with talismans later. Jiang Tian said softly. Just as everyone was trying to figure out what was going on, the large black dog suddenly transformed into a 3-meter-long true dragon. It shook its head and swung its tail, sending Yang Wu flying with a swipe of its tail. Yang Wu clutched his chest as he tumbled to the ground, screaming miserably. Then, the purple-golden true dragon opened its bloody mouth and sucked fiercely, swallowing all of Yang Wu's companions in an instant. Its saw-like teeth chewed crazily and swallowed them in the blink of an eye. Yang Wu's temporary companion was already trembling in fear, paralyzed on the ground and scared out of his wits. Guo Chuandong's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. My heavens, this unassuming large black dog is actually so terrifying. It even swallowed nascent soul stage cultivators in the blink of an eye. At this moment, he believed that Qin Xiong, blood monk Tu Ju, and the other elders of the Haotian sect were killed by Jiang Tian. After a while, the purple golden true dragon turned back into a big black dog. It stood up like a human and slapped Yang Wu's face. With its hands on its waist, it shouted, "Yang Wu, am I a small fish from a remote place? Am I a dirty demonic beast? You're looking down on me. How do you know my strength?" Yang Wu was trembling in fear. He didn't dare to refute. Instead, he apologized, "I didn't know the immensity of heaven and earth. I was wrong. Senior, please spare my life. Get lost." Jiang Tian waved his hand. Yang Wu and his companion hurriedly retreated, not daring to say a word. Guo Chuandong was stunned for a long time before he said, "What if Yang Wu takes revenge in the future?" "Revenge? He's far from it." Jiang Tian sneered and didn't say anything else. Yang Wu turned around and went to Sun Nian's room. He told Sun Nian the story with some exaggeration. Sun Nian frowned and said, "This guy's cultivation is so powerful. This kid might have some strength, but how could he be a match for Senior Sun? Moreover, Senior Yan Nancian is still suppressing him here." Yang Wu was unwilling to give up. He added fuel to the fire and urged Sun Nian to make a move to uphold justice. "I'll let you know, brother Yang Wu. Forcibly changing seats is indeed against the rules of the carriage. Once there's bloodshed, you'll have to bear the consequences. I can't help you even if I want to." Sun Nian had a helpless look on his face. He sighed and said, "Brother, you might as well listen to me. It's better to avoid unnecessary trouble. He only killed your companion, not your parents. Why take it to heart? Let me tell you something. In the Saint Origin world and the Central Galaxy, background, roots, sex, and aristocratic families are nothing but illusions. Only strength is real. You'd better not offend the strong, or you'll end up miserable. Mr. Sun, I'll never come to your carriage again with your attitude." Yang Wu was so angry that his face turned red. He left in a huff. He had no choice but to come up with another plan. He went to Yan Nancian and told him about it. Yan Nancian was shocked. He said in disbelief, "This guy's foundation is extraordinary." Yan Beifei and Zhao Feifei couldn't calm down either. The beast Jiang Tian took in was a nascent soul cultivator. It was so powerful that it could kill a 9th-grade nascent soul cultivator as easily as cutting vegetables. It probably had the bloodline of a divine beast and was as powerful as a soul formation cultivator. And yet, Jiang Tian was able to take him in. He was definitely powerful. Yan Nanshian's eyes flickered with a bright light, and his expression was indeterminate. He seemed to be deep in thought and planning. Suddenly, he waved his hand and said emotionally, "Fei Fei, ask him to come here. Their attitude must be respectful and courteous. See if he's willing to join the Heavenly Luo sect. Tell him that if he agrees, I'll take him in as my last disciple and teach him everything I know. You'll take him in as your own disciple, imparting all your ultimate techniques to me?" At the side, Yang Wu was dumbfounded. Beside him, his female companion's beautiful eyes were also wide open. A cultivator from a remote galaxy hadn't even done anything. His pet had already attracted the attention of a soul formation cultivator. She couldn't help but think that it would be great if she could be favored by Wanderer Xiqing. Yang Wu, who was as stupid as a cow, was definitely not comparable to her. Yang Wu was so scared that his soul was about to leave his body. He trembled and his face turned pale. He swallowed and knelt on the ground, saying with a trembling voice, "Senior Yan Nancian, just pretend that I've never been here and never said anything like that, okay? Don't let Senior Xiqing know about this." Chapter 1831. "Alright, you may go." Yan Nancian nodded. Meanwhile, Zhao Feifei had already arrived at Jiang Tian's room. She said softly, "Xiqing, I'm an elite disciple of the Tian Luo sect, Zhao Feifei. I'm a disciple of Senior Yan Nancian. Greetings, Xiqing. Please have a seat. Jiang Tian's expression was calm. His tone was calm. Thank you, Xiqing. Zhao Feifei curtsied and sat down. She was born in a wealthy family and was a disciple of the Tian Luo sect. Her every move and smile was graceful and elegant. She was as beautiful as a peerless pearl. She smiled and expressed her intention. This must be your first time in the Saint Origin world or the entire Central Galaxy, right? Indeed. Jiang Tian nodded. You may not know this, but the Saint Origin world respects the strong and the weak are ants. Thousands of sects coexist, thousands of races exist, heroes rise together, and saints compete for hegemony. It's very chaotic, and the conflicts between cultivators are extremely bloody and cruel. Zhao Feifei's facial features were exquisite. Her skin was fair like a jade carving. Her face was delicate and beautiful, as if she was otherworldly. As the saying goes, the tallest tree in the forest will be destroyed by the wind. Especially for a young talent like you, you will definitely attract the attention of many experts who want to kill you. You have to be careful. Zhao Feifei was charming, pure, and lustful. She was also very eloquent and very good at bewitching people. She could make people feel as if they were bathing in the spring breeze. Naturally, they would let down their guard and even fall in love with her. In his previous life, when Jiang Tian met Zhao Feifei, he even suspected that she might have practiced the Tao of joy and the art of seduction. Indeed. This is my first time here, so I should be careful. Jiang Tian said calmly. This is only treating the symptoms, not the root. Zhao Feifei smiled bitterly. The real solution is to find a strong backer and stick together. Who will dare to provoke you in the future? Fellow Taoist, you mean? Jiang Tian mocked in his heart. Was Yan Nancian so impatient? Zhao Feifei smiled and said, the Heavenly Luo sect is one of the top 10 divine sects, second only to the 5 great sacred grounds. In the vast Saint Origin world, it is ranked 6th. There was a divine transformation realm cultivator at the peak of the divine transformation realm. If fellow Taoist wishes to join, I am willing to introduce you to my master, Yan Nancian. In the future, wouldn't it be a wonderful thing for us to climb the boundless path of immortality together? At the end of her speech, her eyelids drooped and her delicate head turned slightly to the side. She was bashful and timid, like a delicate flower reflecting water, causing one's imagination to run wild. No man would be able to resist this kind of temptation. Thank you for your kindness, fellow Taoist Zhao. However, I'm truly sorry. I've always been an itinerant cultivator. I really can't stand the restrictions of the sect. Jiang Tian cupped his hands and politely declined. Zhao Feifei was quite surprised and looked at Jiang Tian in disbelief. She never thought that Jiang Tian would reject her invitation. After all, the Tian Luo sect was indeed a sacred cultivation ground on the Divine Origin continent. Even on the Divine Origin continent, countless young talents wanted to join the sect and become its disciple. Not to mention a cultivator from a remote galaxy like Jiang Tian. Moreover, she had even given him some ambiguous hints. This is the Tian Luo sect. How can you refuse? Guo Chuandong's eyes were red with jealousy and he was as anxious as an ant on a hot pan. He wanted to pry open Jiang Tian's head and see what it was made of. However, seeing that Jiang Tian's expression didn't change, he didn't dare to say more. Zhao Feifei said earnestly again, fellow Taoist Xiqing, I wonder if you've heard what I said just now. The Black Sun galaxy seems vast, but compared to the Central Galaxy, it's like a swamp in the ocean. You're the same as the Black Sun galaxy, a remote galaxy, so you're naturally very conspicuous. However, in the Central Galaxy, you're as insignificant as a speck of dust. Not to mention anything else, just the Haotian sect, which you offended, and the sect behind Yang Wu, you might not be able to handle it. Fellow Taoist Zhao, don't waste your breath. I've made up my mind. Jiang Tian refused again. He only had a few things to do in the Divine Origin continent. First, he had to find Huang Linger. He didn't have to take her away, but he had to at least protect her. Second, he had to wait for the treasure to appear and help him reach the soul formation stage. Third, he had to help Lin Yang and his old friends from his previous life. Fourth, he had to kill Yan Nancian and his old enemies. However, the treasure was the most important thing. Before that, he had to keep a low profile and didn't want to cause more trouble. He shouldn't let conflicts erupt and attract the attention of the giants in the 9 heavens. Fine. Come to the Tian Luo sect when you've thought it through. Zhao Feifei sighed helplessly and stood up. Before she left, she shook her head and said regretfully, "Do you know that my master hasn't wanted to take in disciples for many years? You rejected the Tian Luo sect and my master. Do you know what you've lost? You've missed an opportunity that could save you 100 years of hard work. If I had such an opportunity in the early days, I would have reached the soul formation stage." Jiang Tian shook his head and chuckled. "You're you and I'm me. Don't judge me by your standards. To you, joining the Tian Luo sect is an opportunity, but to me, it's not worth mentioning." Humph. You're so full of yourself. Hearing these words, the slight favorable impression Zhao Feifei had of Jiang Tian in her heart was completely exhausted. She coldly snorted, flicked her sleeve and left. After Zhao Feifei left, Jiang Tian smiled and didn't say anything to Guochuan Dong, who was trying to persuade him. His deep eyes looked at the storm star belt outside the car window and laughed in his heart. In your eyes, remote star areas like the Black Sun star zone and the Milky Way are not worth mentioning. They're insignificant. But you don't know that I've been to the 9 heavens and the supreme realm in my previous life. Isn't the Saint Origin world and the entire central galaxy just like mud? No matter how hard you fight for power, you'll still be mortals. It'll be difficult for you to become deities and deities. There will be a day when your lifespan will run out and you'll die. But for me, in 1,000 or 10,000 years, I'll be a deity in Hongmeng and live forever. Zhao Feifei returned to her room and sat down angrily. What's wrong? He rejected you. Yan Nanxian's face was calm as if he wasn't surprised. That kid looks gentle and humble, but he's actually arrogant. He's made up his mind to not rely on the sects and families. He doesn't take the Tian Luo sect seriously at all. How can someone like him live for half a month in the Saint Origin world? Zhao Feifei said with disdain. Stubborn. You really can't carve rotten wood. Yan Beifei also looked disdainful. He smiled and said, "This kind of cultivator is very common. They don't know how terrifying the central galaxy is. The Saint Origin world has a lot of soul formation cultivators and saints. All the void returning saints in the Saint Origin world are enough to suppress a few galaxies. They still think that Saint Origin world is as remote and desolate as their ancestral star. This guy is very strange. He might be the best room for me. Beifei, keep an eye on him, but don't do anything rash." Yan Nancian said with a deep look. "Yes, father." Yan Beifei's expression changed and he quickly agreed. Yan Nancian closed his eyes and lowered his gaze. He gradually immersed himself in cultivation. His chi was faintly discernible, like an old turtle. Chapter 1832. Sigh, if he had joined the sect, maybe Master would have taught him wholeheartedly. But he rejected Master's offer without hesitation. Master would have no choice but to use him as a tool. Zhao Feifei heaved a sigh and sympathized with Jiang Tian. "Xiqing, you won't have a good life after being targeted by Yan Nancian. Master is just a hall leader in the middle of the Tian Luo sect. He has a senior soul formation elder and a void return ancestral patriarch. If they all help Yan Nancian to deal with you, you won't be able to handle it." She wanted to remind Jiang Tian, but when she thought of Jiang Tian's arrogance when he rejected her, she couldn't help but feel indignant. Good words can't persuade a man who deserves to die. I've done my best. Why do I have to cause more trouble? Besides, if Master knows that I'm secretly sending messages to him, he'll play with me until he dies. Thinking of this, she also threw Jiang Tian to the back of her mind and silently began to cultivate. The next few days were peaceful. 5 days later, the carriage went deep into the storm belt. All along the way, even though they experienced a few demon beast attacks and devil invasions, the sky-treading Pegasus was extremely swift, and the carriage was inscribed with numerous divine formations and holy talismans. Coupled with the fact that Sun Nian and Yan Nancian were experienced horses that knew the way and commanded them from the center, they could be considered to have passed through the most dangerous area in a mere 3 days. 10 days later, the carriage finally arrived at a star courier station in the St. Origin continent. At the Gentle Breeze Courier Station. This is the St. Origin continent. The spirit chi is so abundant. It's 10 times, no, 100 times denser than the ancestral planet. The Grand Tao laws have been strengthened. I feel that I can only release 1% of my Dharma power and immortal will. This is terrible. I feel like I'm going to vomit blood. Is this a higher level of Dharma laws and Grand Tao? I heard that the St. Origin continent is only at the edge of the central galaxy. If we enter the central galaxy, we'll have to see the 9 celestial sects and sacred grounds. Everyone was excited, and curious as they looked down through the car window. Their faces were filled with joy. Some cultivators were already suppressed by the laws and great Taos. Their bodies glowed as they broke out in cold sweat. They circulated their innate cultivation techniques to resist desperately. The St. Origin continent was extremely vast. It was only a planet, but its size was already larger than a solar system. Rumor had it that a nascent soul cultivator tried to cross the entire continent using only his body's Dharma power instead of a flying Dharma artifact. In the end, he failed to do so even after 1,000 years of his life. On the Great Earth, countless streams of spiritual essence contained the laws of nature. They were extremely pure and scattered down like waterfalls. However, there were traces that could be followed. They all poured into the sect's Tao temples and the aristocratic families' cities. Numerous shapeless laws were heavy like iron plates as they lay across the sky, and numerous Grand Tao fragments rumbled and trembled as they emanated the sound of the Grand Tao. Numerous towering mountains towered like swords, piercing straight into the 9 heavens. Half of them were hidden in the clouds, as if the stars, sun, and moon were revolving around them. On top of these famous mountains and great rivers, where spiritual energy was abundant, there were immortal palaces floating about. They were made from an unknown type of precious metal and emitted resplendent rays of light that moved one's soul. Those building materials were common in those sections. But if they were placed in remote galaxies such as the Milky Way or the Black Sun star zone, they would be invaluable. They could be made into Taoist instruments or even quasi-saint weapons. High-level cultivators would fight to the death for them. We're finally here. It's worth dying for. Many old cultivators trembled and some even cried. The development of the mortal universe wasn't balanced. It was extremely difficult to become a deity. In his previous life, Jiang Tian was the only one who went through the tribulation to become a deity in 500 years. However, in the past, the entire universe would only have one Tao reunion perfected immortal every few thousand or even 10,000 years. There would only be one Tao reunion perfected immortal every few 100,000 years. All in all, the path to becoming a deity was unpredictable. Many planet regions even thought that the path to becoming a deity was over. They thought that the deity realm in 9 heavens was just a legend and didn't exist at all. For many cultivators, being able to enter the central galaxy, have a chance to see the truth of the void returning level and live for 10,000 years was already an incredible achievement. It was their life goal. There was even a saying of mini-ascension after entering the central galaxy. In the eyes of the cultivators in the remote planet regions, entering the central galaxy was almost the same as entering the deity realm in 9 heavens. And Jiang Tian felt even more complicated. He even felt a sense of homesickness. In his previous life, he had lived in St. Origin world for too long. He was very familiar with every blade of grass and every tree. He also had many close friends. In terms of time, the time he had lived in Saint Origin World was several times longer than on Earth. However, when his master, the immortal monarch, left him there in his previous life, he had no power at all. But then, he had already formed a divine-grade nascent soul and formed the three flowers at one's prominence, reaching the peak. The flying Pegasus slowly landed. Sun Nian and the others said, "Everyone, we've arrived at the Divine Origin World and the Wind Courier Station. Congratulations, fellow Taoists, for having a bright future in the Saint Origin continent. Cultivate diligently every day, and ascend to immortality as soon as possible. Come to our Dragon Gate caravan shop next time, we guarantee you a discount." Everyone got off the flying Pegasus carriage. At this moment, this short-lived group quickly bid farewell to each other and went to different realms. Yang Wu didn't dare to look at Jiang Tian from the beginning to the end. As for whether or not Jiang Tian would take revenge on him for going to his own sect, Jiang Tian didn't care. Jiang Tian was still in the carriage when he noticed that Yan Nancian and the other two were flying away in an aircraft that was even more luxurious than the flying Pegasus carriage. A cold light flashed in his eyes and then he became calm again. I remember that Lin Yang and his sister often hired rogue cultivators when there was an outbreak of demons in Maple City. At that time, I had just started chi refinement, but Lin Yang took me in as a guard. How could I protect the Lin family and Maple City? Lin Yang, and the ancestor of the Lin family, Lin Takong, have been very kind to me. But in my previous life, I didn't know that you were being hunted down by the Tian Luo sect. Even after I knew, I didn't dare to avenge you. But in this life, I've returned strong and I'll help you reach a high position. Jiang Tian sighed in his heart as he walked out of the car and stepped on the solid ground. At this moment, he was holding Jiang Beibei's small hand. He was dressed in an old green robe, and his hair was coiled into a bun on top of his head with an inconspicuous jade hairpin inserted into it. 2 strands of hair hung down on both sides of his face, mixed with silver. Coupled with his deep eyes and deep facial features, he exuded a kind of melancholy and mature charm. However, a big black dog followed behind him, which made him look a little strange. "Brother Xiqing, someone is hiring guards. Which family? Is he strong? Can he be a backer? Most importantly, can he get a temporary residence permit?" On the other hand, a large fatty followed behind, chattering endlessly while timidly sizing up the surroundings. He was like a large fat rabbit in the forest where wild beasts roamed about, stupid, cute, and vigilant. It made everyone think that they must be new to this place. At the same time, in the square outside Hefeng Courier Station, the surrounding passengers cast their gazes in a certain direction from time to time. There was a shining flying carriage with a divine formation engraved on it. There were also a few golden core stage wine spirit birds parked there. This was a small flying carriage of the Taoist artifact level. It was quite eye-catching in a place like Hefeng Courier Station, but that was nothing. The key was that beside the flying carriage stood 2 stunning beauties, one big and one small. Chapter 1833. The older one looked to be in her 20s. She had a pretty face and a hot figure. She was wearing a tight-fitting combat leather armor, which outlined her exquisite and graceful figure. Her beautiful eyes were deep and calm, but there was a hint of quickness in them. Her movements were fierce and vigorous, giving people the feeling that she was a woman who was not inferior to men. Obviously, she was a person who had been through many battles. If a high-level cultivator was here and scanned her with his divine sense, he would notice that she was already in the early nascent soul realm. Moreover, it was a divine nascent soul realm. She had a bright future and was expected to become a big shot even in the Saint Origin world. The other girl looked like she was only 16 or 17 years old. Her face was still childish, but she was also very beautiful. In fact, her appearance was even more outstanding than the first one. It was as if all the spiritual chi had gathered in her body. Judging from the Dharma artifacts and Dharma treasures, such a beautiful girl seemed to have a great background. Of course, she would attract a lot of attention when she appeared in the square outside the Hefeng Courier Station. If I can get help from such a beauty, wouldn't I be able to save 200 years of cultivation? Moreover, she's not an auntie. Some male cultivators looked at her from time to time. Their faces were filled with infatuation, and their saliva almost flowed out. Some even had the idea of striking up a conversation with her. Don't even think about it. Immediately, a friend pulled him back and warned him with a pale face, "Do you know who they are? That little one is Lin Dai, the daughter of the Zhenyuan Marquis Lin Hanqing, the city lord of Maple City. She formed her golden core at 16 and is known as a genius girl. I heard that she has been accepted as an inner disciple by the Nine Mysteries sect, one of the top 10 divine sects." Wow! Lin Yang's sister. The man who was tempted was shocked. If she was an ordinary golden core realm cultivator, it would be fine. However, such a talented girl with an extraordinary background was not to be offended. The ancestors of the Lin family had followed the emperor of the Eastern Empire to conquer the world. In the Saint Origin world, the sects were high and mighty. However, they had reached a tacit agreement with the secular world and would not directly interfere with the secular imperial power. Currently, there were 16 secular empires of various sizes, and they were developing rapidly. The 6 largest empires in terms of overall strength were comparable to the sections. However, in terms of the combat power of the top cultivators, the sects were still superior. For example, most of the saints were in the sects and not in the secular imperial power. Although the Eastern Empire was a secular kingdom, the emperor was a saint. Although the emperor had fallen and turned into Tao, the royal family still kept many great experts. It was said that with a saint in charge, they were almost on par with the celestial Luo sect, Luoing sect, and other sacred grounds. The emperor was quite generous. With a wave of his hand, he bestowed the Lin family with an iron rice bowl and the title of Marquis of Zhenyuan, which was hereditary. The entire Maple City and the surrounding area within a radius of 10,000 miles all belonged to the Lin family. This Lin Yang was one of the top playboys in the Eastern Empire. It was said that he had cultivated for more than 50 years and barely reached the Golden Core realm. He could be called a useless prodigal. Usually, he never dared to compete with others. He only relied on his family to show off. Moreover, he was a maniac who protected his sister. Rumor had it that a nascent soul heavenly lord once flirted with Lin Dyer, so Lin Yang gathered an army and destroyed the nascent soul heavenly lord sect. The big one is even more impressive. She is Count Nan He, the daughter of the Golden Sand City's city lord, Fang Jinlong, Fang Goyu. As soon as these words were spoken, "It's her." The person who was tempted was so scared that his face turned pale. His legs trembled, and he almost wanted to flee. Count Nan He, Fang Jinlong, was one of the top masters in the Eastern Empire. The Golden Sand Army of the Golden Sand City had 1 million soldiers, including many nascent soul cultivators and golden core cultivators. They were known as the most powerful army in the Eastern Empire. They were considered a giant even in the entire Divine Origin continent, and no one dared to offend them. Fang Goyu's status was only second to some princesses of the royal families. Most importantly, the crown prince of the Eastern Empire, Dongfang Ding, admired her a lot and said that he wanted to marry her. But for some reason, Fang Goyu had been staying with the Lin family in Maple City for almost a year. Didn't you see the sign? Fang Goyu and Lin Dyer are here to recruit guards for the Lin family. The requirements are nascent soul cultivators or golden core cultivators who are under 60 years old. Besides, the rewards are very generous. They can get permanent residency in Maple City and a lot of cultivation resources as a reward. Someone laughed and said, "You're also a golden core cultivator. Why don't you try?" A guard flirts with a young mistress and wins the heart of a beautiful woman. Isn't that how storytellers usually arrange things? You must be joking. I'm not worthy. The person who was tempted left with a face full of shame. Although he was a golden core cultivator, he was more than 500 years old. He didn't meet the requirements at all. Also, it could be seen that the Lin family wasn't just selecting guards. They were selecting a group of elites. Even in the entire divine origin continent, those who could reach the golden core stage before 50 years old were very rare and could be called geniuses. Sister Goyu, let's go back. Lin Dyer looked impatient as she scanned the surroundings. We've been to all the relay stations in the divine origin continent for the past 6 months. Almost every time a cultivator from outside the central galaxy comes, we've gone forward to recruit, but we haven't found a suitable candidate. You little girl, not all the people have come out yet. Can't you wait? Fang Guyu shook her head helplessly. There's a saying in the divine origin continent and even the central galaxy. Outside the central galaxy, there are no geniuses. Lin Dyer frowned. Take a look at the quality of the people who have come. There were a few nascent soul cultivators from outside who tested their power on the stone pillars, but they were all low-grade nascent souls. Some were only at the 5th or 6th grade, which is about the same strength as a 9th grade golden core cultivator. I really don't know what's wrong with the ancestor. He wants us to select the elites from the cultivators from outside the galaxy. He's just picking a general from a group of cripples. Her face was full of disdain and disdain. She looked at the cultivators from outside the galaxy like a fashionable woman in a modern metropolis on Earth looking at a group of primitive African people. Maybe we'll find something. No matter what, we have to follow the ancestors' instructions and go through everyone. In addition, we have to show some respect to these cultivators from outside the galaxy. None of them can be ordinary people if they can step into this place. However, Fang Guyu frowned slightly. She didn't think so. At least, she didn't agree with all of them. The vast galaxy outside the central galaxy was indeed relatively desolate. There were very few heavenly materials and earthly treasures. It was like a remote village. However, saying that there were no geniuses was an exaggeration. Those who could reach the same level in those desolate places often had to put in 10 or even 100 times more effort than the cultivators from the central galaxy. They often had more perseverance and ambition, and their talent and comprehension were even better. Okay, I got it. Lin Dyer respected Fang Guyu very much. She was an amiable elder sister, but also a dignified teacher. Fang Guyu had been staying with the Lin family these days to guide her cultivation. It was also because of Fang Guyu's careful guidance that she broke the record and reached the golden core level and was accepted as an inner disciple of the Nine Mysteries sect. However, Lin Dyer was still very frustrated and helpless. Just as she was feeling bored, a faint voice suddenly sounded. Excuse me, are you recruiting guards here? I'd like to apply. All she saw was a middle-aged male cultivator with graying sideburns, chiseled facial features, and calm and deep eyes. He wore a warm smile as he greeted Fang Guyu. He held a little girl who looked like a porcelain doll in his hand. A big black dog with greedy eyes followed behind. Chapter 1834. You have the guts to apply for a job with this kind of quality. He's really confident. Lin Dyer glanced at Jiang Tian with a trace of disdain in her eyes. His appearance and aura were ordinary. He did not have the imposing aura of a person who had achieved the Tao. Instead, he gave off the aura of a mortal. His Taoist robe and shoes were not worth mentioning. It was simple and unadorned. Even if there was a faint glow, it was very heterogeneous. The effects of body protection, mind calming, and eyesight protection were extremely poor. They were almost ordinary. In total, it probably did not exceed 20 pieces of top-grade crystal stones. If her close friends, who were born in rich and powerful families, were here to show off their Taoist robes, shoes, headwear, and bracelets, they would have mocked him. His appearance was not good either. He was at the level of a passerby. If thrown into a crowd, he would be drowned in an instant. Moreover, his eyes were exceptionally deep and vicissitudes of life. His real age should be older than what he looked like. Moreover, she scanned Jiang Tian with her divine sense a few times and did not detect any aura of a cultivator. This person should only be in the foundation establishment stage, or even lower. He could not be compared to the descendants of the aristocratic families in the Eastern Empire. Not to mention Li Yichen, the eldest senior brother of the Nine Mysteries sect. I'm sorry, we only want cultivators below the Golden Core stage. You don't meet the requirements. Let's go. Lin Dai suppressed her disgust and said coldly. Isn't there a test stone tablet here? I wonder if I can test it. Jiang Tian turned to look at the woman who had liked him, hurt him, and was forgotten by him and asked indifferently. In his previous life, Jiang Tian was only able to establish a relationship with the Lin family after he had reached the foundation establishment stage. At that time, Jiang Tian was injured while hunting demonic beasts. Lin Yang rescued him and brought him home. Lin Dai had already joined the Nine Mysteries sect. However, at that time, Lin Dai seemed to have been abandoned by the sect's eldest senior brother, Li Yichen. With the sect's special permission, she returned home to heal her injuries and met Jiang Tian. At that time, her heart was empty. Coupled with Lin Yang's intention to matchmake them, and although Jiang Tian's cultivation was only at the foundation establishment stage at that time, he showed great talent in cultivation. She couldn't help but have feelings for Jiang Tian. However, Jiang Tian did not accept her feelings and kept a distance from her. On one hand, he understood that she was only using him as a substitute for eldest senior brother to fill up the emptiness in her heart. Secondly, it was because of the guilt he felt towards Xiao Xueqing that he could not accept other women. Most importantly, he felt that this woman was fickle in love and was definitely not a good match. It turned out that Jiang Tian's guess was right. She didn't know what was wrong with Li Yichen. He wanted to reconcile with Lin Dai, and came to visit the Lin family. In order to show that someone loved her, Lin Dai deliberately said how Jiang Tian pursued her. Li Yichen was unhappy and directly broke Jiang Tian's dantian. Although the ancestor of the Lin family, Lin Takong, personally healed Jiang Tian, Lin Yang was so angry that he wanted to fight with Li Yichen. However, Lin Dai, who caused all of this, was indifferent to the seriously injured Jiang Tian, as if those vows did not exist. She immediately returned to Li Yichen's side and married him. They were inseparable and became a much-told story in the Eastern Empire and even the Saint Origin world. Later, because Jiang Tian cultivated the cultivation method passed down by the immortal emperor, he broke through very quickly and soon suppressed Li Yichen and Lin Dai. However, for the sake of the ancestor of the Lin family and Lin Yang, Jiang Tian did not seek revenge on Li Yichen. However, Lin Dai's fate was extremely miserable. When Yan Nancian of the Tian Luo sect destroyed the Lin family, Lin Dai hoped that Li Yichen and the Nine Mysteries sect would help. However, Li Yichen flatly refused. When Lin Dai argued, Li Yichen flew into a rage and killed his wife. Perhaps Lin Dai was still full of shock and disbelief before she died. However, for many outsiders, they had already seen it clearly. Li Yichen quickly married Yan Nancian's daughter, and with the help of Yan Nancian, killed his master and many elders, and took the position of the leader of the Nine Mysteries sect. Later, he used the power of the sect to help Yan Nancian become the leader of the Tian Luo sect. For a time, no one in the Saint Origin world could suppress Li Yichen and Yan Nancian. It was not until Jiang Tian cultivated hard for 100 years and obtained the opportunity to enter the Hangyu Immortal sect and reach the divine transformation realm that he got rid of the two people and swept the two holy lands. However, now that Jiang Tian recalled the events of his previous life, he felt like he was in a trance, as if it was a dream of 1,000 years. As a person of two lives, Jiang Tian had experienced too much. Whether it was in his previous life or now, in his opinion, Lin Dai was just a passerby in his life. Why would he be entangled with such feelings? However, although she had hurt him, he was still the blood of the Lin family. The Lin family ancestor and Lin Yang had been very good to him. In his previous life, he had also implicated the entire Lin family. In this life, no matter what, he had to protect him, push Lin Yang to a high position, and revitalize the entire Lin family. Little sister, don't be rash. Lin Dai wanted to ridicule him, but she was glared at by Fang Goyu, so she did not dare to speak. Fang Goyu nodded slightly at Jiang Tian and said, Sir, you can try. Jiang Tian nodded and waved his hand, and an invisible wave of Dharma power blasted toward the stone tablet. This stone tablet looked ordinary, but it was actually refined from a 10,000-foot mountain and inscribed with countless array patterns. It could completely withstand the attack of a divine transformation realm expert. It could also calculate the limit of Dharma power. Dong! With a muffled sound, the stone tablet trembled and shone brightly. Then, a few lines of words appeared in the air. Middle Stage Golden Core Realm, Grade, Unknown. What? Middle Stage Golden Core Realm. Fang Guoyu was completely stunned and could not believe it. That was because she did not realize that Jiang Tian was so powerful. His eyes have seen the vicissitudes of life, and his temperament is gloomy. I'm afraid he's at least a few hundred years old. Even if he reaches the Golden Core Realm, it will be difficult for him to improve. Lin Dai felt disdain in her heart as she communicated with Fang Guoyu through her consciousness. The older a Golden Core Realm cultivator was, the more time they spent practicing outdated techniques, and the harder it was for them to disperse their original techniques and adapt to the excellent techniques of the Divine Origin Realm. In theory, they even hoped to obtain some Foundation Establishment Realm geniuses to make it easier to cultivate. Unfortunately, Foundation Establishment Realm cultivators had short lifespans. Even if they used hibernation cabins or methods to stop their lifespans, they would not be able to sustain a long voyage to the central galaxy. Therefore, even if Jiang Tian was really a Golden Core Realm cultivator, if his lifespan was too old and his thinking was too rigid, it would be difficult for him to disperse his techniques. Fang Guoyu ignored him and said with a smile, "I wonder how old you are this year. Can I test it?" As she spoke, she took out an exquisite box-shaped Dharma artifact. The universe was vast, and each planet's rotation and orbit were completely different, so the measurement of time was also different. However, the central galaxy had already produced many Dharma artifacts to test a cultivator's true age. Of course. Jiang Tian smiled faintly and flicked his finger. A bead of blood floated into the box. A moment later, the test results came out. With a flash of light, a line of droplets appeared in the air and formed a line of words. According to the time of the Divine Origin Realm, the tested person has a lifespan of 20 years. Hearing this, Fang Guoyu and Lin Dai were shocked and could not believe it. What a good seedling. After 10 years of cultivation, won't he have a chance to reach the nascent soul realm? After 100 years, won't he have a chance to see the truth of the soul formation realm? We've found a treasure. Fang Guoyu and Lin Dai's eyes lit up and they could not help but smile. Chapter 1835. A soul formation cultivator was already a giant in this world. Fang Guoyu and Lin Dai didn't dare to hope that Jiang Tian would become a soul formation cultivator. But a nascent soul cultivator was still within reach. And in the entire Lin family, a nascent soul cultivator could already be a servant and be treated as an equal by the head of the family. There weren't many nascent soul cultivators, especially rank 9 ones, in the entire Lin family. Most importantly, cultivators from the outside like Jiang Tian were usually very hardworking. No matter if it was building or repairing, guarding the city, hunting demon beasts, or exterminating bandits, he would always take the lead and actively perform. Because there was a trace of inferiority in their bones. They cherished their hard-earned life very much. They were also very easy to satisfy. Employers often only needed to provide them with housing, household registration, and enough resources to support their cultivation. There were many nascent soul cultivators from outside the central galaxy. But one had to know that Maple City was only the territory of a marquis. There were dozens or even hundreds of such cities in the Eastern Empire, not to mention the entire Saint Origin continent. In short, recruiting cultivators from outside the galaxy was a two-way choice. Outstanding nascent soul cultivators were also looking for a better backer. It depended on the conditions given, the amount of cultivation resources, and the strength of the backer. They might not be interested in the Lin family of Maple City. Fellow cultivator, how should I address you? If you want to join Maple City, you can register your identity now. Fang Goyu smiled and said, with your strength, you can get a dojo and be exempted from paying taxes every month. Also, you'll be rewarded with half a kilogram of high-grade spirit stones. I'm Xiqing Wanderer. Jiang Tian smiled and said, this is my daughter, Bebe. This is my pet. He made up another story. Of course, it was the Black Sun Galaxy. She and Lin Yang are really a pair of idiots. He looked at Fang Goyu and smiled bitterly in his heart. He was very emotional. Fang Goyu and Lin Yang were childhood sweethearts. In the eyes of many people, Lin Yang was a good-for-nothing, while Fang Goyu was a genius female cultivator. The two weren't a good match at all. But matters of the heart were just that strange. Fang Goyu and Lin Yang had a very good relationship and loved each other deeply. Fang Goyu was staying in the Lin family now to avoid Crown Prince Dong Fangding. However, Fang Goyu and Lin Yang's resistance was useless. In the end, Fang Goyu still married Dong Fangding and became the crown princess, and then the imperial concubine. However, during one of the kingdom wars, he personally led the troops and died. This was also Lin Yang's lifelong regret. He had always suspected that Fang Goyu was actively seeking death. One had to know that if she had committed suicide, her family would have been blamed by the Eastern imperial family. That was why she had openly died in the arena. Thinking back carefully, in his previous life, when Yan Nanxian of the Tian Luo sect attacked the Lin family, the entire Dongfang royal family and the various aristocratic families did nothing. It was very likely that it was Dongfang Ding's orders. In Jiang Tian's impression, Dongfang Ding was a narrow-minded person. Very soon, Fang Goyu took out a jade slip and quickly helped Jiang Tian make an identity jade slip. Her status was revered, so the Department of Investigation Services and security guards of Maple City all sent people to accompany her. She also carried the magical artifacts used to make identity jade slips with her. He reached the Golden Core realm in his 20s. How enviable! He doesn't need to be an illegal resident and can freely enter and exit large cities. He also doesn't need to face demon beast attacks in the wilderness. Sigh, can't compare. For a moment, many cultivators from outside the galaxy looked at Jiang Tian with envy. They had been looking for a backer for a long time, but they still couldn't find one. Their faces were full of fatigue and dust. However, Jiang Tian had easily found a backer as soon as he got off the Pegasus flying carriage. Even though they were considered the overlords of their respective starfields, they were nothing here. Many of them were practically refugees. The natives of Saint Origin, even mortals, had household registers and could live in cities. Outsiders had to exchange their strength for the right to live in cities. At this moment, Guo Chuandong also quickly walked up and smiled. I am Guo Chuandong, and I am from the same hometown as Xiqing. I am also willing to join the Lin family of Maple City. Soon, Guo Chuandong also passed the assessment and successfully joined. After all, he was a nascent soul cultivator and could serve as a guardian. Then, Fang Goyu looked at the desolate station and smiled. You should be the last group of cultivators who came from Bamboo Horse Star to Saint Origin World. There are no more cultivators left. Let's go to Maple City. Okay. Jiang Tian and Guo Chuandong nodded. After getting on the carriage, the flying carriage rose into the sky. The wind spirit bird flapped its wings and flew towards the depths of Saint Origin World. Along the way, Guo Chuandong pulled Fang Goyu and Lin Dyer to ask about Maple City, the Eastern Empire and Saint Origin World. Jiang Tian sat in the back seat and chatted with Lin Dyer for a while. After that, he didn't say a word. After all, he had stayed in Saint Origin World for a long time in his previous life and knew a lot about it. He had also fabricated his own background. Regarding the Black Sun domain, the ancestral planet, he adhered to the principle that the more he spoke, the more likely he would make mistakes. Therefore, he was unwilling to talk too much about it. Jiang Tian smiled apologetically and moved aside with his daughter in his arms. He closed his eyes and slowly adjusted his breathing as if he was cultivating. Lin Dyer waited for a while. Seeing that he didn't want to talk, she turned her head and looked out of the window. Although this cultivator from beyond the Milky Way was very young and talented, she was very popular in the Eastern Empire. In addition, she had high standards and strict rules. Although she was curious about Jiang Tian, it wasn't to the extent that she would take the initiative to talk to Jiang Tian. Besides, no matter how strong the cultivators from beyond the Milky Way were, they still couldn't dominate the central galaxy. For millions of years, there were only a handful of cultivators who could really become giants in Saint Origin World. Maybe he is playing hard to get and trying to attract my attention by acting alone. Unfortunately, I only admire those who are really capable, such as a genius like Li Chen. At best, you can only be my family's servant. Lin Dyer snorted in her heart and a trace of disdain appeared in her eyes. But in fact, Jiang Tian didn't care about her at all. He was thinking about the problem of cultivation. The treasure that could be called an immortal material was indeed about to come into being. If he remembered correctly, it was at the evil-infested ridge. That year, in order to obtain this treasure, the experts of the sacred grounds, divine sects, and even the great empires fought until their brains were broken. Countless almighty cultivators fell. It could be said that the Saint Origin World set off monstrous waves and dyed thousands of miles with blood. Jiang Tian was very clear about the characteristics and origin of this treasure. He had stayed in the Saint Origin World for 100 years and entered the historical archives of the various countries. He read the scriptures of the sects and also found fellow cultivators to learn about all kinds of cultivation secrets. It could be said that he had thoroughly grasped the history of the Saint Origin World for hundreds of thousands of years. With this immortal material, reaching the spirit severing realm would be as simple as piercing through the window paper. However, in order to reach the spirit severing realm, one must first become immortal. Jiang Tian was now at the pinnacle of the nascent soul realm with the three flowers at one's prominence. Moreover, it was a divine nascent soul, just like the child of a true god. However, in Jiang Tian's opinion, he still needed some time to reach the mortal transformation realm. During this time, he needed to temper his state of mind and take care of his daughter's growth. While he was deep in thought, a magnificent city appeared in front of him between the towering mountains. Rows upon rows of palaces and residences flashed with the light of treasures, just like the palaces of immortals. He had arrived at the Eastern Empire. Chapter 1836. The mountain range was continuous, lofty, with towering peaks standing in great numbers. It was a common sight. The entire divine origin world was extremely vast. Even Jiang Tian's immortal will could only cover a small part of it. Many invisible essence chi flowed between the cloud sea mountains like waterfalls. The Grand Tao was as tough as steel and it was 10 times stronger than on Earth after the spirit chi recovery. Countless cultivators flew in the sky. There were plenty of nascent soul cultivators among them. Outside of the central galaxy, they could be famous on a planet and dominate an entire region. Soul formation cultivators weren't rare. Numerous majestic cities stood in great numbers. Their designs were either simple and ancient, as if they had experienced the passage of tens of thousands of years. Their surfaces were covered in the marks of blades and swords, and they silently spoke of a long history. Some were filled with a modern feeling, and their lines were smooth and lofty, as if they came from the future. Many cities were guarded by soul formation cultivators. Even though they were in a dormant state, they still emitted some energy as heavy as mountains, which made the cultivators feel it and not dare to offend them. The central galaxy is indeed the central galaxy. Soul formation cultivators haven't appeared on my home planet for tens of thousands of years. Once they appeared, they were invincible and dominated a planet region. But here, they're just guarding a city. There are probably less than 10 of them in the entire Eastern Empire. Guo Chuandong sighed again and again. He was so excited that the fat on his body trembled. The Eastern Empire was vast and had a radius of 1,000,000 miles. There were many majestic cities and defense lines, like a torrent of steel. Its social system was similar to the feudal system of the ancient Huaxia. Many duke and marquis families controlled the land and there were 108 marquises protecting the royal family. Red Maple City was located in the Red Rock Basin in the south of the empire. There was a Xianji forest with a radius of 100,000 miles in the Red Rock Basin. It was rich in resources and people lived in peace. There were many talented cultivators. Surrounding this forest were Blue Wave City, Red Maple City, and Jianghan City, three pillars of power. Red Maple City was only a medium-sized city. Lin Dyer and Lin Yang's father, the city lord of Red Maple City, Marquis Zhenyuan Lin Hanqing, was a superior being in the eyes of ordinary people, but he ranked 37th among the 108 marquises. The two city lords and marquises of Jade Wave City and Jianghan City were much more advanced. The city lord of Cerulean Wave City was ranked 15th among the many dukes and marquises. The city lord of Jianghan City, Zishan Marquis, was ranked 4th. He could even suppress a duke. This kind of ranking was not random, nor was it done without reason. Instead, it was determined by their cultivation and the overall strength of the city. Jianghan City, when they were passing through the Xianji forest, Jiang Tian suddenly opened his eyes and glanced at the celestial seal characters above the city gate. In Jiang Tian's memory, Jianghan City was one of the top 5 cultivation cities in the empire. It was said to have 18 spirit gathering arrays and 9 city defense arrays. The density of spiritual energy there was more than 10 times that of Maple City. Any dojo or mansion could be sold for millions of superior-grade crystals. As if sensing Jiang Tian's gaze, Fang Guoyu introduced, of the 3 cities in the Red Cliff Basin, the most prosperous is Jianghan City. Even in the entire Eastern Empire, Jianghan City ranks in the top 5. She looked worried and said in a low voice, "The city lord of Jianghan City, Zishan Marquis, Shen Higu, is at the soul formation level and is on par with my father, Fang Jinlong." Shen Higu recruited many cultivators from the famous sacred grounds and divine sects of the divine origin continent, not just the Eastern Empire. They are all soul formation cultivators, real giants, and there is more than one of them. In recent years, they have shown signs of catching up. Ha! Shen Higu has always been rebellious. Jiang Tian thought to himself. In his previous life, Shen Higu had launched a mutiny 30 years later, causing heavy damage to Maple City and many other cities. They went straight to the imperial city and almost ousted the Eastern royal family. That was also a bloody battle. Countless soul formation and nascent soul cultivators died in that battle. Even Fang Guoyu's father and the ancestral patriarch of the Lin family were seriously injured. In the end, it was the self-detonation of a great saint of the imperial family that killed Shen Higu and extinguished the flames of war. But the Eastern Empire was greatly damaged and hadn't fully recovered in 100 years. He smiled faintly and said, "How can I allow others to sleep beside me? If Shen Higu has any rebellious thoughts, he will attack those close to him. I'm afraid the first one to suffer will be Maple City. When I have time, I will suppress this person from Maple City and even occupy his city." If it was in his previous life, Jiang Tian would have run as far as he could when facing Shen Higu. But now, it was different. As long as he broke through to the soul formation realm, even if he was half a step away, killing Shen Higu would be a piece of cake. He could even sweep the entire divine origin continent and destroy all the divine sects and sacred grounds. How can this person be so sharp? Sure enough, although the cultivators outside of the river live in desolation, they often face more cruel competition. None of them can reach the golden core or nascent soul stage. Fang Guoyu was slightly stunned when she heard this. She didn't expect Jiang Tian to judge the political situation of the empire just by listening to a few words. In fact, her father Fang Jinlong and the ancestor of the Lin family had the same judgment. The reason why Fang Jinlong asked her to come to the Lin family was to suppress Purple Marquis. However, she did not think that Jiang Tian had the ability to suppress Shen Higu. She said half jokingly and half seriously, "Okay. Xiqing, you have to keep your word. If one day you reach the soul formation realm and suppress Jianghan City, the Lin family and the Fang family will be the real giants of the empire and the empire will be safe and peaceful. At that time, you can bring your partner and we will travel the world together." We will leave the divine origin continent and go to the territories of the 9 divine sects. Unlike now, we have to guard the city, protect the mortals, kill the monsters, and kill the rebels. We don't have a moment of free time. Lin Dai listened and couldn't help but frown slightly. Shen Higu was a peerless master in the empire, second only to Fang Jinlong. Even the elders of the divine sects were not inferior to him. Perhaps only the sect leader could suppress him. Among the same generation, even the most talented nascent soul stage genius like Fang Guyu wouldn't dare to make such a claim. Perhaps only Crown Prince Dongfang Ding had such courage. Humph. Cultivators from remote star regions don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Reaching the Golden Core stage at the age of 20 is naturally extraordinary, but from the Golden Core stage to the nascent soul stage, and from the nascent soul stage to the soul formation stage, each step is like a natural chasm. Looks like it's another arrogant person who likes to spout nonsense. She was disappointed. She thought she would meet a special person, but she didn't expect that he was no different from those small fries from remote villages. However, Jiang Tian didn't care about what she thought. He revealed a bitter expression and said sadly, "My cultivation partner is already in another world." This was not an exaggeration. The Hanyu celestial sect was located at the core of the central galaxy and was separated by countless star regions. The difficulty of reaching the Hanyu celestial sect from here was no less than ascending. In addition, he was now pretending to be Xiqing from the Black Sun star region, so he had to change all the information and not reveal any real information at any time. After all, the real grand cultivators could see the stars as if they were reading the lines on their palms. Who knew if the immortal monarch and the other grand cultivators wouldn't release a strand of thought to observe the mortal world? Fellow cultivator Xiqing, please restrain your grief. Birth, old age, illness, and death are human nature. If you don't go through the tribulation to become an immortal, no one is exempt. I'm sure your partner in heaven would be happy to know that you've arrived at the central galaxy and embarked on the path of cultivation. However, Fang Guyu misunderstood and hurriedly said. Chapter 1837. Although Fang Guyu said so, she looked at Lin Dai, meaningfully, her heart burning with passion. No matter what, the Lin family should win over Jiang Tian. Jiang Tian reached the Golden Core stage at a young age. Although his cultivation was not very high, his talent was extraordinary, and his future was limitless. Lin Dai, was young and beautiful, and without a cultivation partner, she could not help but imagine. In her opinion, Jiang Tian and Lin Dai, were indeed very suitable. If Jiang Tian came from a noble family or a sect on the mainland, his roots were too deep, and the Lin family would face the danger of being swallowed up. But he was like duckweed in the water, and it was better. If he married into the Lin family, then the Lin family would be his backer, and wouldn't they be loyal? Just as she was thinking, she suddenly saw dozens of flying boats pulled by wind spirit birds rapidly flying past. Banners stood in great numbers, and on the leading flying boat, a red banner fluttered in the wind, with the words, Jinyuan Marquis, Lin, written on it. Brother is here to pick us up. Lin Dai, could not help but jump up and smile happily, taking the lead to walk out of the cabin. Fang Guyu was also full of joy, and followed her out. Maple City's welcoming party was extremely luxurious. Numerous flying boats traversed the void. All of them were at the Dao treasure level. They emitted resplendent light like small suns. There were hundreds of cultivators on them, and almost all of them were above the foundation establishment stage. The leader was a white-haired old man who was half a step into the soul formation stage. Many cultivators gathered their auras, and waves of vast mana waves swept across a radius of hundreds of miles, scaring many golden core level beasts in the forest. Some crawled, some ran, and some flapped their wings to escape. But Jiang Tian's gaze fell on a young man beside the old man. This young man had sword-like eyebrows and bright eyes, and he was handsome. He was tall and straight, but he had a sense of roguishness. He was dressed in a very luxurious robe, and there were all kinds of jade pendants, rings, necklaces, and so on. They had many functions, such as speed, defense, attack enhancement, spiritual backlash, and so on. He was armed to the teeth, and almost all of them were Taoist artifacts. Even if a soul formation cultivator attacked him with all his strength 10 times in a row, he would not be able to kill him. There were also several followers at the peak of the nascent soul stage around him. All of them looked unfriendly and were acting like henchmen, which made him look even more majestic. However, this kid was only at the first level of the Golden Core realm. He held a folding fan in his hand and waved it elegantly, looking like a refined scum. He smiled and said, "Sister Goyu, Sister Dai, you're finally back. I miss you so much. Were there any lechers who molested you along the way? Tell me, and I'll lead the army to flatten them." Young Marquis, the son of the city lord, Lin Yang. Jiang Tian's eyes flickered with complicated emotions. There was joy, regret, and deep regret. In his previous life, Lin Yang had given him a lot of help and support, and was like a brother to him. However, because Jiang Tian had offended Yan Nanxian, an innocent person like him was killed. Even the Lin family of Red Maple City and the bloodline of Zhen Yuanhou were completely cut off. I didn't kill Boren, but Boren died because of me. Indeed, I am not the root cause of Lin Yang's death and the destruction of the Lin family. The fault lies with Yan Nanxian. However, I cannot absolve myself from the blame. I owe Lin Yang too much. In this life, I will make it up to you. At least, I will make you a giant in the Saint Origin realm, and let you enjoy glory and wealth for generations to come. Jiang Tian's eyes were deep as he made up his mind. You only think about fighting and killing every day. You're only at the Golden Core realm, okay? The flying boats from both sides converged and hovered in the air. Fang Goyu flew over and punched Lin Yang in the chest as she said with a tender smile. Ouch! You're a nascent soul realm prodigy, your strength is as great as a mountain. Go easy on me. This punch caused my true essence to collapse, and I nearly died. Lin Yang covered his chest and joked. Okay. I was too harsh. I'm really sorry. In the future, I will be careful when dealing with you. Fang Goyu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I was almost killed by you. Your apology is useless. If you feel guilty, then hurry up and marry me. You also know that I like your body the most. Big breasts and perky buttocks. You can give birth. Besides, my cultivation is too weak and I need a woman to protect me. Lin Yang's stinky mouth was never serious when he opened his mouth. Hearing this, Lin Dai, frowned and Fang Goyu blushed. She stamped her feet and said angrily, Lin Yang, if you dare to be so ambiguous, I will complain to Uncle Lin. See if he doesn't hang you up and beat you. Lin Yang was very afraid of his father, Zhen Yuanhou. He smiled and said, Okay, let's not talk about it. Sigh, I've been stuck at the first level of the Golden Core realm for more than 10 years. Every time he sees me, it's like I'm the enemy who killed his father. If you complain again, I'll be dead. After joking for a while, Lin Yang said seriously, how are the results of this trip to recruit guardians? This is the Golden Core realm cultivator, Xiqing. She's only 20 years old. This is the nascent soul realm cultivator, Guochuan Dong, 500 years old. Fang Goyu introduced. Jiang Tian bowed slightly and said with a smile, Greetings, young duke. Lin Yang closed his folding fan and clapped it in his right palm. His face was full of joy. He said with a smile, Not bad. You're only 20 years old, but you're already at the Golden Core realm. You're even stronger than me. Your future is limitless. If you follow me in the future, you'll live a good life. I will definitely protect the Lin family with all my heart. Jiang Tian cupped his hands and said. Lin Yang nodded and pointed to the white-haired old man. He said with a smile, This is the head of our Lin family's guardians, half-step soul formation realm cultivator Zhang Lin Feng. In the future, you'll listen to his orders and receive his guidance. He knows many Golden Core realm cultivation methods, and he can teach you all of them. Jiang Tian nodded slightly. Zhang Linfeng's aura was as majestic as a mountain, and his face was arrogant. He looked up and down at Jiang Tian and suddenly asked, "You're all from the Black Sun sector?" "Indeed." Jiang Tian nodded. Hearing this, Zhang Linfeng frowned. With a slightly disgusted and disappointed expression, he said coldly, "Miss Goyu, in the future, it's best if you choose guards from the rogue cultivators of Saint Origin World. Cultivators from remote places are just like ants. It's hard for them to achieve great things. They can't be compared to the rogue cultivators that the young Duke and I have recruited." After saying that, he flicked his sleeves and entered the cabin. He didn't even bother to pay attention to Lin Yang. Lin Yang smiled awkwardly and said with a smile, "Zhang Linfeng is from Saint Origin World and has always looked down on foreign cultivators. However, you don't have to worry about him. If you follow me, no one will dare to provoke you." Jiang Tian naturally didn't care. In fact, he knew very well why Zhang Linfeng had such an attitude. Although Zhang Linfeng's cultivation was strong and he was the head of the Lin family's guardians, Shen Yuanhou had always been using foreign cultivators to fill the guardians' ranks. Because the foreign cultivators had a more clean background, he felt more at ease using them. Before this, whether it was sects, sacred grounds, or noble families, there were many cases of cultivators from hostile forces pretending to be rogue cultivators to infiltrate. In the end, the infiltrated forces naturally suffered great losses. Shen Yuanhou loved Lin Dyer very much and didn't want his daughter to marry far away. He even wanted to find a foreign cultivator to be his son-in-law. However, Zhang Linfeng's son, Zhang Muyun, had always liked Lin Dyer. Therefore, Zhang Linfeng and the others hated the foreign cultivators' guards. However, in Jiang Tian's opinion, these were not the most important reasons. They were only superficial reasons. Because as far as he knew, this person seemed to have played a very dishonorable role in Purple Marquis's betrayal in his previous life. It seemed that Purple Marquis had set up a spy in Maple City's Lin family. At a critical moment, he had plotted against the Lin family's ancestor. Where there were people, there was politics. Even a small Marquis clan was filled with internal strife and intrigue, plotting against each other. Chapter 1838. At that moment, they were only 10,000 miles away from Maple City, but with the Wind Spirit Bird flying boat, a magnificent city appeared in front of them in just half an hour. This city was incomparably grand, and it far surpassed the ruins capital in the ruins of immortality. It was grand and vast, and the city walls were an entire 3 kilometers tall. They were cast from golden water, and they emitted a dazzling glow. Numerous talisman markings were inlaid on the city walls, and they were carved into a complicated talisman formation. They contained powerful fluctuations of magic energy that surged into the sky. The soldiers stationed on the city walls were wearing golden armor with maple leaf patterns engraved on them. Every one of them was at least at the foundation establishment level, and there were countless golden core cultivators among them. They were riding on flying swords and flying boats, moving as fast as lightning. The city covered an area of 1,000 miles and the buildings were more than 1,000 meters tall. Mortals and cultivators lived together, far surpassing the bustling metropolises on Earth. One by one, the great city-protecting formations were nested with each other. Formless dermic power waves were vast and mighty, enveloping the entire city. It was difficult for anyone to fly in without being detected. However, the house of Shen Yuanhou wasn't a tall building, but a manor. However, with the protection of the arrays, it was difficult for cultivators to see it even if they were at a high place. It covered an area of a few hundred acres and was made up of several courtyards. There were rockery and strange stones, orchids and orchids. Qilins, cheongqis, dragons and other auspicious beasts were guarding. The buildings were even more simple and exquisite, like a celestial palace. Numerous merit steels were carved with vivid and lifelike reliefs. Every word was like a gem, inscribed with the glorious achievements of the Zhenyuan Marquis lineage, and exuded the vicissitudes of time. When Jiang Tian and the others landed on the square in front of the ancestral hall, a group of black-armored cavalrymen immediately came to greet them. Dozens of cavalrymen were wearing heavy dark iron armor, and even their mounts were wearing armor. Blue scales could be seen from the gaps in the armor of these warhorses, which were heavy and sonorous as if they were made of gold. They also had long antlers on their foreheads, which made them look extremely majestic. Apparently, they were the primeval age's mutants with the blood of the flood dragon. They were omnipotent and could travel hundreds of miles in a second. Young Duke, Miss Miss Goyu. The leading knight dismounted from his horse and strode over. His momentum was so strong that even Guo Chuandong was forced to take a few steps back. He turned out to be a peak nascent soul stage cultivator, and a 9th grade nascent soul stage cultivator. His combat power was superior to ordinary divine transformation stage cultivators. Such a person would be a 1-star tyrant outside the central galaxy. When his eyes swept over Lin Dyer, there was a flash of adoration and passion. Daoist Xiqing, Daoist Gua, this is Zhang Muyun. He's the son of Guardian Zhang, and also the inspector of Maple City. He's in charge of all the cultivator armies. We must get along well with each other in the future. Lin Yang introduced with a smile. At this moment, Fang Guyu swept her gaze over the crowd and smiled. Since Guardian Zhang and Inspector Zhang are both here, I propose that Xiqing alone serve as Lin Dai's guard captain. From now on, Patrol Inspector Zhang would focus on the city's defense. Consecrator Zhang, immediately assign him a residence and predict the payment of crystals for that month. He came to protect Miss Lin. Zhang Linfeng's eyes showed some mockery, but he just shook his head and didn't say anything. After all, Fang Guyu was an honored guest of the Lin family, and behind her stood the great Nan Hebo Fang Jinlong. He didn't dare to offend her easily. His cultivation is not even as high as mine, and he wants to protect me. Lin didn't like Jiang Tian very much and wanted to refuse. But she immediately realized that her future sister-in-law Fang Guyu was unusually smart and meticulous. She must have her reasons for making such an arrangement. Jiang Tian had an indifferent attitude. He cupped his hands slightly and said, I will obey Miss Fang's orders. Zhang Muyun's face flashed with a gloomy look, and he was extremely unhappy. Because he had always been in charge of guarding Lin Dai's residence, this was also the best opportunity for him to get close to Lin Dai. Now that it was taken by Jiang Tian, how could he be happy? He looked at Jiang Tian and suddenly took a step forward, shouting, as far as I know, those who are not nascent soul stage cultivators can't cross the Star Sea and reach the Star Station. This Wanderer Xiqing is only at the Golden Core stage. Is she hiding her cultivation? As soon as these words came out, everyone showed a few strange expressions. Is he still at the nascent soul stage? Lin Dai said in disbelief. First miss, you'll have to ask him. However, deliberately hiding his cultivation and sneaking into the Lin family, I'm afraid he harbors evil intentions and has other motives. Zhang Muyun took another step forward and said in an overbearing manner. As soon as he said this, Lin Dai and the others all took a few steps back, looking at Jiang Tian warily. One had to know that when they were recruiting guards, every cultivator would do their best in hopes of being recognized by their master. If he deliberately hid his strength or cultivation, it would be too strange. This kid is not an idiot. With just a few words, he isolated me. Jiang Tian thought leisurely, but he said calmly, if the gold core is beyond the 9th level and reaches the sacred level or the deity level, it will be able to cross the sea of stars even with the best flying magical artifacts. There are precedents before. Hearing this, everyone was stunned and couldn't believe it. There were such precedents. Could it be that Wanderer Xiqing really has the legendary saint or celestial grade golden core? That's too unbelievable. Zhang Muyun, on the other hand, laughed mockingly. Kid, do you know what a saint or celestial grade golden core means? Even in the saint origin world, it only appears once every 100,000 years. It's difficult to breed a dragon in shallow water. How can a phoenix be raised in a forest? How can a remote place like the Black Sun Star Field give birth to a saint or celestial grade golden core? What a joke. Tell me, why did you hide your cultivation and deliberately deceive Miss Lin? Do you want to steal from the Lin family? What nephew Muyun said makes sense. The few elders present all nodded in agreement. They were all rogue cultivators in the Saint Origin world and were supporters of Master Zhang Muyun. They were clearly different from the rogue cultivators from the outside world and were used to fighting for power. Could it be that this person is really not a good person? Lin Dai was surprised and then thought sarcastically, what a pity. Even if you hide your cultivation and are really a nascent soul cultivator, sneaking into the Lin family is just walking into a trap. There are so many nascent soul cultivators and even half divine transformation cultivators here. What can you do? Fang Guoyu was so angry that her face turned red. She shouted, Zhang Muyun, what do you mean? She's a talent I recruited and has passed my test. There's no problem. You keep saying deceive. Are you saying that he's a swindler, or are you doubting my judgment and motives? Miss Guoyu, although your cultivation is good, you have too little experience. You don't know that people in the cultivation world are sinister and easy to be deceived by scoundrels. Zhang Muyun was sure that Jiang Tian was under control. He laughed and said, if Xiqing is really from the Black Sun Star Field, you can hand over your sect or family identity token for me to verify. Many sects and families in the Black Sun Star Field also have identity tokens. I've seen some of them before. Besides, you've come to the Bamboo Horse Planet from the Black Sun Star Field. You'll get a lot of documents to prove your identity. As soon as he said this, everyone looked at Jiang Tian worriedly. Even Fang Guoyu and Guo Chuandong were a little nervous. Chapter 1839. What Zhang Muyun had said was indeed true. Whether it was the sect token or the customs clearance document, they could prove one's identity and could not be faked. However, Jiang Tian had not appeared from the beginning to the end, and all of them were rejected as itinerant cultivators. Jiang Tian held his daughter's hand with his left hand and put his right hand behind his back. He was indifferent. If you don't have these, you can also let me search your soul to verify its authenticity. Zhang Muyun took a step forward. His nascent soul roared, his dharma shook, and his hair fluttered in the wind. He looked like a god of war. He looked at Jiang Tian mockingly as if he was looking at an ant. Or, you can fight with me with your golden core cultivation. I want to see how strong your golden core is and whether it is the legendary divine grade golden core. Let everyone see it. As soon as he said this, Guo Chuandong's fat body trembled. He secretly thought that this person was ruthless and wanted to kill Jiang Tian. To cultivators, soul-searching was a great humiliation. Jiang Tian would never agree to it. However, if Jiang Tian could not prove himself, he could only fight with Zhang Muyun with his golden core cultivation. In other words, even if Jiang Tian was a nascent soul cultivator, he could not use the Dharma laws and Forbidden Zone. He could only seal his cultivation and fight with his golden core Dharma form and true Yuan. This was tantamount to hitting a rock with an egg and asking for trouble. Because even if Jiang Tian did not suppress his cultivation, he might not be able to win against Zhang Muyun, let alone suppress his cultivation. As for Zhang Linfeng and the other consecrators from Saint Origin World, they were secretly praising and gloating over Yishuan's misfortune. After all, Jiang Tian belonged to a different sect. Killing one of them was better than killing one of them. They did not want him to suddenly become stronger and replace them. As for the consecrators from outside the river, although they sympathized with Jiang Tian and hated Zhang Muyun to the core, they did not dare to voice their anger. Each and every one of them had a bitter and desperate expression on their faces, and their bodies were shivering like quails in the cold wind. Under the tyrannical power of the Zhang father and son, they were firmly suppressed. It was difficult for them to even survive, so how could they dare to stand up for Jiang Tian? How dare you brag that you have a sacred grade golden core? A sacred grade golden core can indeed suppress a nascent soul cultivator. However, you have to have this bone structure and aptitude. That is an existence that is 1 in a billion. Lin Dyer's eyes were cold, and she did not speak to Jiang Tian. She was easily swayed by Zhang Muyun's words. Besides, she didn't like how Jiang Tian looked calm and indifferent, but was actually cold and arrogant. I'm your mistress, and I'm so beautiful, yet you don't hurry to kneel down and suck up to me. Instead, you put on airs and think of yourself as noble and virtuous. Aren't you looking down on me? Brother Mu Yun, it's common for cultivators to hide their roots and cultivation. Xiqing might have some hidden troubles, but he might not have any bad intentions. Why do you have to be so aggressive? I order you to leave now. After this, I will verify your identity again. However, Fang Guoyu couldn't stand it anymore and shouted directly. Nobles have families, but not countries. Zhang Muyun was unmoved and retorted with a faint smile. I take the salary of the Lin family and Maple City, so I naturally serve the Lin family. I am responsible for the safety of the people of Maple City. Although Miss Fang is the daughter of Count Nanhe, and although Count Nanhe's title is higher than the Lin family, I don't take the salary of Count Nanhe. Your words are useless to me. Lin Yang was so angry that his nose was crooked and his whole body trembled. He pulled Jiang Tian behind him and firmly protected him. He pointed at Zhang Muyun with his folding fan and shouted angrily, Zhang Muyun, from now on, Fang Guoyu is my wife, the future marquis, and your mistress. Her words are my words. Don't you dare to disobey. Previously, his father Lin Hanqing had talked to him and told him to be wary of Master Zhang Muyun and recruit rogue cultivators from beyond the river so that he could control the important positions of the family and the city as soon as possible. He didn't believe it and thought that his father was just worrying for nothing. However, today, he saw the big picture. He increasingly felt that the executive group was too powerful and firmly controlled by the master of the Zhang family. Today, they were just ignoring the master's authority. In the future, they might turn against the master. I will give face to the young master. Seeing that Lin Yang had stepped forward, Zhang Muyun couldn't make a move. Besides, his consideration was very simple. He only wanted to embarrass Jiang Tian in front of Lin Dyer and make him lose face, so that Jiang Tian wouldn't one day get lucky and win Lin Dyer's heart. Therefore, his goal was achieved and there was no need to pursue. However, insults and ridicule were unavoidable. He immediately laughed and said, "Coward. A dog-like thing without any real ability. You only know how to wag your tail and please the master to get the master's protection. However, you have to be careful, I will keep an eye on you. You have a dirty mouth, you should slap it." Jiang Tian suddenly raised his eyelids and snorted. What? Slap? How dare you? Zhang Muyun suddenly turned around and stared at Jiang Tian like a wolf choosing its prey. His nascent soul roared and his spirit embryo roared. He was about to draw his sword and attack. He was a master at the peak of the nascent soul stage. He controlled the law and had the forbidden area. His power was earth-shattering. Once he was angry, he immediately felt the connection between heaven and man. Dark clouds gathered in the sky, lightning flashed and thunder rumbled. It was as if a demon god had descended, making the other cultivators tremble and want to kneel down and worship him. Why wouldn't I dare? But Jiang Tian gave a light laugh and suddenly made his move. The reason why Jiang Tian had been holding back was actually not because he was worried about exposing his cultivation and arousing Lin Yang's suspicion. After all, Lin Yang was a pure and sincere person. Moreover, he was indeed a cultivator from beyond the river and had no connection with the forces of Saint Origin World. Lin Yang wouldn't suspect him at all. He just wanted to trigger the potential conflict between Zhang Muyun and the Lin family, or rather, expose the ambition of the father and son of the Zhang family. Then, Lin Yang, Lin Hanqing and even the ancestral patriarch of the Lin family would notice. Jiang Tian's attack was very simple. He didn't use the divine laws of the nascent soul level or even the essence qi of the golden core level. Instead, he suppressed his divine powers to the level of a mortal and only relied on his physical strength. He stomped on the ground. The square carved with countless complicated rune arrays and made of the meteoroids in the cosmic storms, which could withstand a nuclear explosion, immediately collapsed into a deep pit 10 meters in diameter. Everybody was knocked over and fell to the ground in embarrassment. Jiang Tian had already shot out like a bolt of lightning. Seeing this scene, Zhang Linfeng and the other elders' expressions changed drastically. They turned pale with fright and shouted, "Yun, be careful." It wasn't an exaggeration to say that the power of Jiang Tian's stomp could flatten a 1,000-foot mountain and destroy the city wall of Maple City. This kind of power was beyond the golden core level. No matter how strong you are, you're just a golden core cultivator. How can you be more powerful than my supreme laws? Zhang Muyan naturally understood this as well, but he did not panic. Instead, he sneered coldly. He sneered, but he didn't hesitate at all. He opened his hands and shouted. Cloud Hand, Magic Cloud Law. His fingertips like an eagle's claw cracked the air and a nascent soul forbidden region was formed. Layers of space piled up like clouds, which seemed light but were actually extremely heavy and indestructible. Not even a normal soul formation cultivator would be able to break through it. And yet, it was useless under Jiang Tian's attack. Jiang Tian's chaotic divine body had reached the phenomenal success level. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that he was like a god from the divine world. How could normal cultivators resist him? Jiang Tian's body slammed forward, and the forbidden zones in front of him were torn apart like paper. Then, they exploded, and everything within a radius of several hundred meters became a mess. If it weren't for the arrays in the mansion suppressing the power of the forbidden region with powerful laws, dozens of miles would have been razed to the ground. Amidst Zhang Muyan's panicked sharp cry, and under the gazes of disbelief of everyone present, Jiang Tian was like a mad dragon that approached Zhang Muyan, and then he raised his hand and fiercely slapped Zhang Muyan's face. Swish! Zhang Muyan was sent flying thousands of meters away as if he had been hit by a meteorite. With a loud bang, his sturdy body smashed a big hole in the courtyard wall of the mansion. He turned into a rolling gourd and disappeared in the billowing smoke and dust. Outside, thunderous noises rang out incessantly. Mushroom clouds rose continuously, walls collapsed, and houses collapsed. The noises only stopped when they were 10 miles away. In a blink, the entire square went silent. Chapter 1840. No one dared to make a sound. They were all dumbfounded and their jaws almost fell to the ground. Zhang Muyan was one of the most powerful cultivators in Maple City after the ancestral patriarch of the Lin family, Lin Hanqing and Zhang Linfeng. Not even the soul formation cultivators in Jianghan City could defeat him so easily. No way. He didn't use any Dharma laws or essence chi. He's just using his physical strength. What kind of monster is he? Is he really a sacred grade golden core or even a deity grade 1? Damn, when did the cultivators from outside of the river become so powerful? Zhang Linfeng and the other local guards were frightened and couldn't believe it. Zhang Linfeng looked at Jiang Tian as if he were looking at a monster. He was shocked, angry and sad. For the first time, he realized that the little white rabbit that he could easily crush to death was actually an ancient divine beast that was brandishing its claws and seemed to be able to swallow the heavens and the earth. The guards from outside of the river, including Guochuan Dong, were shocked as if they had seen God. Although they were all consecrators, they had been bullied by the Zhang father and son for far too long. However, they didn't dare to voice their anger. Today, Jiang Tian had done what they wanted to do but didn't dare to do, what they dared to do but couldn't do. This made them feel proud and elated. It was as if they had eaten ice cream in the summer. Such a powerful body. Is he really a sacred child? Fang Goyu and Lin Yang looked at each other and were overjoyed. They had thought that Jiang Tian was an ordinary golden core cultivator, so they were overjoyed. To their surprise, Jiang Tian had a high-grade golden core. They only wanted a leaf, but Jiang Tian gave them a forest. Lin Dyer's beautiful eyes were also shining as she stared at Jiang Tian, full of admiration and favor. As for Zhang Muyan, she couldn't be bothered to look at him a second time. The value of a 9th realm nascent soul couldn't be compared to a holy grade golden core. Plus, Jiang Tian had easily sent him flying with a slap, which proved that his strength was not something Zhang Muyun could match. Kill him immediately. Otherwise, it will affect our grand plan. Zhang Linfeng's heart suddenly hardened. His son's injury was a small matter. More importantly, he and Purple Marquis still had a grand plan that could be ruined by Jiang Tian. When he thought up to here, he took a step forward and shouted coldly, "My son only wants to spar with you and test your background and cultivation. Yet, you're so heavy-handed. I'm afraid you're trying to destroy the Lin family's protection. Everyone, restrain this kid. I'll deal with him after I interrogate him." When everyone heard this, their hearts skipped a beat. Many people sighed in their hearts. He was indeed worthy of being an elder of the same generation as the Marquis of Zhenyuan, a peerless cultivator who was half a step away from the divine transformation realm. His attacks were ruthless and vicious. He actually wanted to besiege Jiang Tian. Lin Yang was so angry that he jumped 3 feet high. He coldly shouted, "Zhang Linfeng, stop. Siqing Sanren is a seed that we intend to nurture. How can you kill the innocent? My father is not here. I can enforce the law on behalf of the master and clean up the emperor's subordinates." Zhang Linfeng's hair flew in anger. His face was as cold as iron and his killing intent was dense. He was completely unmoved. "Young Marquis, quickly retreat. Don't be deceived by this scoundrel. If we fight and injure you, it won't be good. If you want to kill him, you'll have to step over my dead body first. How dare you disobey my orders? Are you trying to kill your master?" Lin Yang was so angry that his entire body trembled. He took a few steps forward and blocked in front of Jiang Tian. Fang Guoyu also took out 2 curved blades and stood side by side with him, ready to fight at any time. Zhang Linfeng was still unmoved. His cold gaze swept across the many protectors and guards. He coldly said, "Prepare to attack. Remember, don't hurt the young Marquis and Miss Fang." Clang! 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 In an instant, the local protectors, dozens of nascent soul cultivators, including the patrolling black-armored soldiers, all pulled out their long swords and soared into the air, surrounding Jiang Tian. Their laws were either as red as fire, as cold as a glacier, as heavy as a mountain, or shining with silver light. Every one of them was incomparably powerful. They interfered with the heaven and earth and crushed the space. The mana fluctuations were strong and mighty, pressing down like raging waves. This scene made many people suck in a breath of cold air. Many protectors and family members with lower cultivation retreated and hid in the protective array, afraid of being caught in the crossfire. Guo Chuandong and the other guards who came from the other side of the river all showed a sorrowful expression. They looked at Jiang Tian sympathetically and worriedly. Zhang Linfeng was a half-step divine transformation cultivator. Together with dozens of nascent soul protectors and protectors, his strength was enough to fight against an ordinary divine transformation cultivator. This Siqing Sanren was made of iron. How many nails could she crush in her body? She could only die here. If you want to fight, then let's fight. Just as Jiang Tian was about to make a move, suddenly, a shout came, "Stop! Zhenyuan Ho is here." A tall and mighty middle-aged man with gray hair, wearing a luxurious robe with a qilin embroidered on the chest, came over on a sword. He said with a smile, "Brother Linfeng, it's inevitable that someone will be injured in a fight. Why do you have to be so calculative with a kid and make things difficult for a junior? Stop." He was also a half-step divine transformation cultivator, but his majesty was more profound. It was a huge aura that had been cultivated by being in a high position for a long time. "My father is here. It's okay," Lin Yang said to Jiang Tian with a happy face. Zhang Linfeng could only put away his weapon and bow deeply, "Greetings, Marquis." The other elders and protectors showed some reluctance, but they didn't dare to disobey Marquis Zhenyuan's order. They all took a few steps back and half knelt on the ground. Marquis Zhenyu and Ho Lin Hanqing floated down, put away his flying sword, glanced at Jiang Tian, frowned and reprimanded with seemingly displeasure. Child, although your cultivation is strong and your cultivation is heaven-defying, you can't be so cruel and ruthless. We're all family, look at how you beat Zhang Muyun. I heard that your constitution is extraordinary, and I wanted you to be the deputy head of the protector group. Now it seems that you're not worthy of being a guard of my Lin family. Marquis Zhenyuan is right. I was rash. Jiang Tian cupped his hands in a manner that was neither servile nor overbearing, and did not refute. Because he knew that Marquis Zhenyuan was very kind, and this statement was just to appease Zhang Linfeng. Sure enough, when Zhang Linfeng showed a bit of pride, Lin Hanqing said coldly, in my opinion, I still have to punish you heavily and temper your temper. Start from the bottom. From today onwards, you will be Lin Dyer's sparring partner, the lowest level of 5th level guard. When these words came out, everyone had different expressions. Zhang Linfeng looked as if someone had stuffed a mouth full of feces. Zhang Muyun, who had just arrived, looked like a fried bitter gourd. The other native elders and protectors also had ugly expressions. You call this a heavy punishment? This is simply a heavy reward, okay? 5th level guards were indeed the lowest level of guards. Needless to say, their status was low. Their monthly salary was only enough to cover their daily expenses. It was very difficult for them to even buy heavenly materials and earthly treasures for cultivation. However, it was different for a sparring partner. They could share cultivation techniques with their master, share elixirs, weapons, and other treasures. They could use them at will, and even receive guidance from a master. Otherwise, if the sparring partner's strength was too weak, how could they fight with their master and stimulate their potential and be a trial? It could be said that the potential benefits were not even comparable to the head of the protector group. Dyer, Xiqing, do you have any objections to this arrangement? Lin Hanqing looked at Lin Dyer, with a kind smile in his majesty. Regarding cultivation, Dyer will listen to father's arrangements. Lin Dyer's pretty face showed a bit of shyness and joy, her beautiful eyes rippling as she glanced at Jiang Tian with extraordinary splendor, as if facing her idol. Chapter 1841. But Jiang Bebe showed some hostility and vigilance. She hugged the big black dog's neck and whispered in his ear, "This beautiful little sister, why is she looking at me like that? Does she want to be my mother?" At this moment, everyone looked at Jiang Tian with envy. Even Zhang Muyun's eyes were spitting fire, and his teeth were almost broken. Getting cultivation resources was only one aspect, the key was that Lin Dyer seemed to be in love with him. Everyone thought that Jiang Tian would kowtow and thank him. After all, the benefits of being a sparring partner were too good. Unexpectedly, Jiang Tian cupped his hands slightly and said sincerely, "Marquis, I have an objection." "What? You have an objection? Say it." Lin Hanqing was dumbfounded, and there was a faint anger in his heart. This kid, how could he not know when to stop? Didn't he know that I was also facing a certain amount of pressure by helping you like this? I think that young Marquis Lin Yang's cultivation is low, his foundation is mediocre, and his personality is lazy. You need a sparring partner. Jiang Tian said in a neither servile nor overbearing manner. Are you scolding me? Lin Yang was so depressed that his intestines turned green. I treated you as a brother and protected you all the way. I didn't expect you to think that I was so unbearable. You even said it in public, we're not done. Fellow Taoist Xiqing's comments are really pertinent. But Fang Goyu's beautiful eyes were kind, and she covered her mouth and smiled. Pertinent my ass. Lin Yang spat out. If it weren't for Jiang Tian's strength being too strong, he would definitely challenge Jiang Tian. Fang Goyu ignored him and said seriously, however, fellow Taoist Xiqing, Sister Dyer's cultivation is higher and her talent is stronger. A month ago, she defeated the imperial princess Dongfangying, and her name shook the entire Eastern Empire. If you become her sparring partner, your cultivation will definitely improve faster, and your gains will be greater. At the mention of this, Lin Dyer proudly puffed out her chest, thinking that Jiang Tian would change his mind. Lin Hanqing nodded and said, "That's right, fellow Taoist Xiqing. Do you want to reconsider?" He knew that his son was a cultivation trash, born with damaged meridians. The metal stone decoction had consumed countless heavenly and earthly treasures, but it was useless. It would be difficult for him to become a talent. In the future, when he inherited the title of nobility, he would just be a rich man waiting to die. On the other hand, his daughter had a brighter future. Jiang Tian was obviously not an ordinary Jindan stage cultivator, and he was not even in the Jindan stage. If he became his daughter's training partner, it was very likely that his daughter's potential would be stimulated in a short period of time, allowing her to reach the nascent soul stage quickly. Who knew that Jiang Tian smiled faintly and said, "They're all too weak. It's hard for me to improve no matter who's my sparring partner. I just want to fulfill my duty and raise the young Marquis's cultivation." "What do you mean? How dare you, again and again, refuse to be my study partner, not putting me in your eyes?" Hearing this, Lin Dyer's beautiful eyes suddenly turned cold. She looked at Jiang Tian angrily, and secretly snorted in her heart, "I've already condescended and agreed in public. Aren't you slapping my face and making me unable to get out of the embarrassing situation? If this spreads out in the future, won't I become a laughingstock?" Although Lin Hanqing was reluctant, but Jiang Tian had already said so, it was not good to disobey. After pondering for a while, he nodded and said, "Fine. Let's do it this way for the time being." With that, he turned and left, walking into the depths of the mansion. Before Zhang Linfeng and the other elders, as well as Zhang Muyun, left, they all glared at Jiang Tian with resentment and hatred. It was obvious that they had resentment in their hearts. As a result, Jiang Tian and his daughter stayed in the Zhenyuanhou mansion. He lived in a side room in Lin Yang's courtyard. For the remaining 2 months, he practiced with Lin Yang for 2 hours every day, but did not give too much guidance. Lin Yang was originally lazy, and the key was that he had long been disappointed in his cultivation progress, so he also dealt with it casually. For the rest of the time, Jiang Tian took his daughter and the big black dog, strolling around Maple City, tasting delicious food, listening to songs and stories, and seeing the local customs. The memories of his previous life were vividly recalled. Every day, he rose at sunrise and rested at sunset. Except for the occasional battle with Zhang Muyun, he had never exposed his magic power and magical powers, just like an ordinary mortal. But just from this battle, the people in the Zhenyuanhou mansion also knew that an incomparably powerful golden core cultivator had come, with a cute daughter and a big black dog. However, everyone also quickly discovered that Jiang Tian was very kind and approachable. "Mr. Xiqing, are you going out for tea again? Liang Ilong's osmanthus cakes and tea cakes are very good. Uncle Xiqing, the battle through the heavens you told us last time was too wonderful, I want to hear more. When will you have time? Fellow Taoist Xiqing, this is the lingji that I picked from the Xianji forest. It seems that it has been growing for hundreds of years, you can make soup for Bebe." Everywhere, the surrounding guards and servants would enthusiastically greet Jiang Tian. Especially those cultivators who came from outside the river, they even regarded Jiang Tian as their backbone. After all, for many years, no one dared to go against the Zhang family's teacher. Jiang Tian made them lose face, and they admired him from the bottom of their hearts. Now, the entire Zhenyuanhou mansion servants had been divided into 2 distinct factions, the local faction and the overseas faction, and Jiang Tian and Guo Chuandong were already the core of the overseas faction. Jiang Tian also smiled in response. He was dressed in a green robe, black boots, and a square scarf as a crown. His facial features were deep, full of charm, and his gaze was calm, like a middle-aged scholar. Jiang Bebe was dressed in a cute red robe, with clear eyes and smooth skin, like a porcelain doll carved from jade. She had already become one with the children in the mansion, and had become the king of the children. She took the lingji and put it into the storage ring, and said proudly, "Thank you uncle, I will make soup for father." Wow! Bebe is so young, and she knows how to make soup. Everyone praised. Of course. Without mother, I want to be father's little cotton-padded jacket and take good care of him. He is not used to the food in the mansion. The food I make has mother's taste, father likes it the most. Jiang Beibei smiled sweetly, revealing 2 shallow dimples on her cheeks. She looked innocent and unaffected. So sensible. Fellow Taoist Xiqing, you are lucky. My little girl has just grown up, she is really cute. Everyone praised sincerely. Jiang Tian smiled with relief. I made osmanthus cake, everyone try it. Jiang Beibei took out pieces of cake from the storage ring and distributed it to everyone. Finally, she stuffed a piece into Jiang Tian's mouth and smiled. Father, how do you feel? It tastes good. Beibei's cooking is getting better and better. Jiang Tian rubbed the girl's little head. Jiang Beibei's cute big eyes narrowed into slits, and she was like a cat, letting out a comfortable hum. She was chatting with a few guards, and servants. Suddenly, Lin Yang walked over quickly, and said anxiously. Brother, bad news. Second Prince Dongfangli, Marquis Zishan, Marquis Shanxue, and Marquis Shanxue have come together to punish Lin Dyer. Hurry and accompany me to the main hall to take a look, maybe there will be a big fight, a bloody battle. Don't panic. Lin Dyer, what crime did she commit? Jiang Tian asked indifferently. Hey! 3 months ago, Princess Dongfanging came to our 3 cities of the Red Rock Basin to patrol and play. At that time, Jianghan City, Blue Wave City, and our Maple City held a grand welcoming ceremony. The Eastern Empire was founded on cultivation, so naturally, they would compete in cultivation to liven things up. At that time, Lin Dyer also fought with Dongfanging and won, hitting Dongfanging with a palm. Lin Yang said helplessly, at that time, my father even praised Dyer. Who would have thought that suddenly, Dongfanging would fall ill? Dongfangli brought Marquis Zishan and Marquis Shanxue to punish Lin Dyer and avenge Dongfanging. Chapter 1842. Dongfanging. Jiang Tian suddenly felt that the name was a bit familiar. In his previous life, when he lived in the divine origin world, he had read a lot of historical materials and medical books. Dongfanging was recorded in many of them. Dongfanging did die in the end. The Dongfang royal family did take away a lot of Zhen Yuanho's territory and severely punished Lin Dyer. But in fact, Dongfang Ying's strange illness was not because of Lin Dyer's palm. It was because of her special body, the extremely rare 9-yin body. Her body was cold, her dantian was empty, and her meridians were weak. It was a serious illness. Of course, this explanation came from many years later. It came from the inference of the celestial sects in the central galaxy based on the symptoms, and they even gave many treatment and cultivation plans. However, with the current level of treatment and alchemy in the divine origin world, even those soul formation alchemy gods couldn't solve it. After recalling the treatment plan in his mind, Jiang Tian glanced at the hall and said, let's go. Let's go and have a look. He didn't like Lin Dyer, but in his previous life, whether it was Lin Yang, Lin Hanqing, or even the ancestral patriarch of the Lin family, they had taken care of and helped Jiang Tian a lot. In the end, their family was destroyed because of him. For their sake, Jiang Tian certainly wouldn't ignore it. Around the majestic hall, armored soldiers stood in great numbers, filling the entire sky. They were arranged in rows and filled with dense killing intent. The atmosphere was heavy and solemn, making people feel extremely depressed. Zhang Linfeng and Zhang Muyun led a group of guards and cultivators from the Lin clan. They were facing off against a group of cultivators from Jianghan City and Jade Wave City with their swords drawn. But if one looked carefully, they would find that the cultivators of Jianghan City and Jianghan City had the upper hand. Most of them were peak-stage nascent soul cultivators, and their numbers were 3 times that of the Lin family. There were even 3 half-step soul formation cultivators. They were all arrogant, talking and laughing, as if they were in a place where no one could stop them. Their eyes were also superior, as if they were looking down on a group of ants. On the Lin family's side, there was only Zhang Linfeng, who was a half-step to the soul formation stage, and Zhang Muyun, who was a peak-stage nascent soul cultivator. The rest of them were almost all normal nascent soul cultivators with relatively low levels. They were so nervous that they were covered in cold sweat. Their hands holding their weapons were trembling slightly. What's going on? Why are there so many people here? Yeah, I heard that even the second prince is here. It must be something big. What to do? Should we fight or run? Let's run. We can do our best, but not our lives. Many guards and sinecures of the Lin clan were talking to each other through their soul awareness. All of them were confused and uneasy. Prince Dongfangli sat in the middle of the hall, and a group of people stood behind him. Including the Marquis of Purple Robe, the Marquis of Shanshui, and a few of their trusted ministers, there were 7 or 8 people in total. In addition, his sister, Princess Dongfangying, had also come. This woman had a delicate and pretty appearance, and her figure was graceful and exquisite. She was delicate, timid, and sickly. She was gasping for breath and dripping with sweat. Her skin was white and translucent, and she looked a little sickly. If people from Earth were here, they would definitely feel that her temperament was very similar to Sister Lin in Dream of the Red Chamber. Lin Hanqing, your daughter is so arrogant and overbearing. She even dares to injure Princess Ying. Now that the Imperial Medical Hall had taken a look, Princess Ying only had 3 years left to live. She was in a precarious state. This woman is vicious and obviously wants to kill. She despises the imperial family. If we don't punish her severely, the dignity of the imperial family will be gone. The Marquis of Purple Robe was tall and strong. He was wearing purple golden armor and his aura was like a dragon or a tiger. He was angry and pointed at Lin Dyer, who was kneeling on the steps, and shouted. He was a dignified Divine Transformation Realm warrior, and a holy Divine Transformation Realm warrior at that. He was at the peak of the Divine Transformation Realm and was only a step away from the Half-Saint Realm. The invisible pressure he emitted made everyone's hearts jump and their souls leave their bodies. Hearing this, Lin Dyer was so scared that her face turned pale. She burst into tears and said in a trembling voice, Marquis, when I fought that day, I was very careful and restrained my true vitality. How could I hurt the princess? I have always regarded Sister Ying as a good sister. How could I hurt or kill her? The Marquis of Azure Wave City was the Lord of Azure Wave City, Li Liudao's father. He shouted loudly, Witch, how dare you quibble? I see that you have no intention of repenting. You disregard the imperial family of the Dongfang clan. You deserve to be punished. In my opinion, 100 beatings are not enough. You should just be beaten to death and be punished. As soon as these words came out, Lin Dyer was so scared that she almost fainted. She spoke incoherently and only sobs were left. My daughter was indeed too heavy-handed back then. Little Marquis was also deeply frightened and quickly ordered his family to gather nourishing pills and offer them. Don't worry, Second Prince, Purple Marquis, don't worry. I will definitely ask for famous doctors and elixirs to cure Princess Ying. Lin Hanqing hurriedly bowed and cupped his fists. When he lowered his head, he hid the anger in his eyes. He knew that Dongfang Ying had this strange illness for a long time. It had broken out several times before. This time, it was just a coincidence and had nothing to do with his daughter. In fact, the second Prince Dongfangli also knew this and had told him in advance. This time, Purple Marquis wanted to weaken the power of Jin Yuanho. However, the imperial family of the Dongfang clan was also helpless because Purple Marquis had the support of many holy lands and divine sects in the Saint Origin world. His connections were extremely terrifying and the experts under him were as numerous as the clouds. The general situation was already set. Even Nan He and Fang Jinlong might not be able to suppress him. Therefore, he told Jin Yuanho to take the overall situation into consideration and not resist. If they forcefully suppressed him now, it would probably cause Purple Marquis to break out prematurely and cause internal strife, causing a turbulent situation. In short, the imperial family of the Dongfang clan and the various feudal lords were not ready to suppress Purple Marquis. Moreover, everyone further judged that Purple Marquis was not the greatest trump card of this rebel force. There was an even greater backer and mastermind behind him. There could be supporters in the imperial family or the feudal lords. Therefore, the imperial family of the Dongfang clan could not act at this time. Cure. Even Pill Master Hu of the Imperial Physician Hall said that the princess was seriously injured and the evil energy had invaded her meridians and dantian. There is no way to cure her. Marquis Shanshue shouted, "Don't try to pester me. This marquis has already discussed with His Highness the Second Prince. We will give 10,000 miles of Xianji forest to the imperial family. Purple Marquis and I will temporarily manage it. Your daughter has deceived the imperial family. She will be caned 100 times. Whether she can live or not will depend on her luck." Lin Hanqing's face turned pale when he heard this. His body trembled as he said, "Second Prince, are you serious?" Second Prince Dongfang Li gripped the armrest of his chair until his knuckles turned white. He smiled with difficulty. "Jinyuan Marquis, for the sake of the big picture, you should agree. 10,000 miles of land is half of my ancestral fief. Second Prince, are you really going to allow it to be taken away?" Lin Hanqing's eyes exploded with cold light as he suppressed the anger that was about to erupt. "Your imperial family has plans and schemes, fine. But why should my family and my daughter make such a huge sacrifice? The key point is that I have to bear the infamy of being unloyal and unrighteous." Sometimes, even he thought about it the wrong way. The imperial family was poor and weak, unable to even maintain basic fairness and morality. What was the point of the imperial family's existence? What emperor wants his subjects to die, so his subjects have no choice but to die? These were all clichés and nonsense. Think about it, the Lin family had worked for the imperial family of the Dongfang clan for several generations, protecting their territory. But in the end, his daughter was going to be caned to death for no reason. If the emperor is heartless, his subjects will be unrighteous. At worst, I'll rebel too. Chapter 1843. Purple Marquis, Jinyuan Marquis' bloodline, has contributed greatly to the defense of the land, whether it is slaying demons, suppressing bandits, or resisting the Black Moon Empire in the south. You have always been at the forefront, truly a loyal subject of the empire. The second prince's heart was filled with humiliation and sorrow, forcing a smile. Even if Lin died, or injured the princess, her feelings are pitiful. I beg you once, can you not cede land as compensation? He was even somewhat submissive. Purple Marquis had recruited soldiers and taken over a giant fortress, full of ambition, and could raise the flag of rebellion at any time under the pretext of righteousness. Now, he had to feign civility, not daring to shed all pretense of cordiality. Take Dongfang Ying's injury as an example. If he did not punish the Lin family today, then in the future, Purple Marquis' experts will challenge the imperial family in the name of competition. If he refused the challenge, then the imperial family's face would be swept to the ground, weak and easily bullied, becoming a fat sheep that could be bitten by anyone. If he accepted the challenge, then Purple Marquis' minions would definitely seriously injure him, or even kill him. But at this time, if he pursued responsibility, he would use the Lin family's Lin Dai, to seriously injure the princess but was not punished. With the words, "The imperial family is unfair, the emperor forces his subjects to rebel," he could openly raise his troops, wave the flag of rebellion, and directly attack the root of the problem. He could even gain the support of cultivators and common people who did not know the truth, and put the imperial family in an unjust position. It could be said that Purple Marquis and Shanshue Marquis' rebellion today seemed to be for Jinyuan Marquis' fief, but it was far from that simple. If the imperial family wanted to protect Jinyuan Marquis, then it was the same as helping Purple Marquis establish a new set of rules, which was exactly what he wanted. Under this new set of rules, strength was above all, the strong were respected, and the imperial family had to bow to strength. It did not matter if the Marquis injured or killed the imperial family, but the dignity of the imperial family would gradually be eroded and eventually destroyed. But if the imperial family did not protect Jin Yuan Marquis, then it would naturally make the Marquis bitterly disappointed in the imperial family. Purple Marquis could still weaken the imperial family's dignity by holding the emperor and ordering the Marquis around. What made the second prince most sullen was that he clearly understood all this, but he could do nothing. No matter how he dealt with it, Purple Marquis had the upper hand and benefits. Yes, Purple Marquis, I don't believe that sister deliberately hurt me. It's just that my cultivation is inferior. The sickly Princess Ing of the East spoke. Moreover, my cold illness does indeed break out once every 10 years. This time, it's been 10 years since the last time. I think it's just a relapse of her old illness. It has nothing to do with Sister Dai. Please don't make things difficult for her. Her words were sincere. Her voice was intermittent, and she was panting. It was obvious that she was short of breath, but her attitude was very sincere. The corners of her eyes were filled with tears, as if she was about to cry. These words made the nobles and ministers in the Purple Marquis camp feel somewhat guilty and ashamed in their hearts. However, the struggle for power in the imperial court was just that cruel. Following the imperial family or resisting the Purple Marquis was a road to death. Thus, no one dared to say anything. This Marquis will give your highness face. If he didn't want to cede land, that was fine too. Beat this woman to death. Purple Marquis turned a deaf ear to Dongfang Ying's pleas, enjoying the pleasure of controlling the life and death of others, and laughed sinisterly. This was also something he was extremely willing to do. Didn't you, Jin Yuan Ho, claim to be good at fighting and defending the land, and a good general and important minister of the country? If you can't even protect your own daughter, let's see who will support you in the future. What right do you have to protect the imperial family? A Lin family without supporters is not even worth a fart. Father, I don't want to die. As soon as these words came out, Lin Dai was so frightened that she wailed, tears falling like rain. Purple Marquis, you are aggressive, you are going too far. Today, I want to ask you, is this your world, or the Dongfang family's world? The second prince and her highness both said that this matter has nothing to do with my daughter. Lin Hanqing was so angry that he stomped his feet. What do you mean by going too far? What do you mean by aggressive? Purple Marquis was unmoved, and sneered, this Marquis is doing this to protect the dignity of the imperial family and the supreme authority. As long as it is beneficial to the country, as long as it can help the Dongfang family, this Marquis is not afraid of being crushed to pieces, and is not afraid of you slandering me, or even being pointed at by the world. You. Seeing that Dongfang Li was not speaking up for him, Lin Hanqing's heart was filled with sorrow. He could only grit his teeth and say, fine, 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 fine. Then he looked at his daughter with a sad face and said, 100 beatings, if anyone dares to beat me more, as long as I, Lin Hanqing, am still alive, I will kill him. Daughter, you have to hold on. Zhang Muyun, save me, protect me and escape. Go directly to the 9 Mysteries sect, there, they won't dare to kill me. Lin Dai was in a panic and despair, trembling, looking at Zhang Muyun outside the door and shouting loudly. This staff was not ordinary, but the imperial family's magic weapon, Strong Thunder Divine Staff, which contained a huge amount of magic power and attracted the strong thunder of the 9 heavens. With one strike, a foundation establishment cultivator would be beaten to a pulp, and their soul would scatter. Even a golden core cultivator would not be able to withstand more than 10 strikes. Zhang Muyun did not dare to move at all. His face was red, and he lowered his head in shame, avoiding his daughter's pleading eyes. There were powerful cultivators from the imperial palace, and also divine transformation cultivators from Jianghan City. Not to mention him, even if his father and Lin Hanqing attacked together, they would not be able to kill their way out. They would probably be killed in a few seconds. Just as the Marquis of Purple Robe was about to attack with the Strong Thunder Divine Staff, Lin Dai fell to the ground in despair and helplessness, and Lin Hanqing looked up to the sky and sighed. It's easy to give up land, and it's easy to kill Lin Dai, but it's not so easy to save the princess's life. In my opinion, she doesn't need 3 years, only 3 months, and she will die suddenly. An untimely voice came. Who's talking nonsense? How dare you curse Princess Dongfang? Everyone looked at the door. The Marquis of Shanshui was even more furious. He jumped 3 feet high, pointed at the door and shouted angrily. This person, deceiving the emperor, must be beaten to death. Marquis Zhenyuan, in your Lin family, even a servant dares to curse Her Highness, and everyone disregards the dignity of the imperial family. I suspect that this is all instigated by you. You have the heart of disobedience, and you should kill all 9 generations, not leaving a chicken or a dog. Seeing Jiang Tian come in, Lin Dai was so angry that her face turned pale. She shouted angrily, "Why are you talking nonsense? Do you know that you will consign the entire Lin family to eternal damnation?" Even Lin Hanqing was shocked. He hurriedly winked at Jiang Tian and said, "You don't know much about medicine. Even the Imperial Medical Hall can't do anything about the princess's strange illness. How can you talk nonsense about the princess's illness? Leave quickly. If you want to die, don't drag us down with you." Originally, it was just a matter of flogging Lin Dai, but now, I'm afraid that all 9 generations of her family will be killed. Is this a place where you can come to? Zhang Muyun and the other guards looked at Jiang Tian as if they were looking at a madman. They wanted to cry but had no tears. Before, it was only Lin Dai's matter, but now that Jiang Tian had stirred it up, it was the matter of the entire Lin family. A guard and a servant dared to curse the princess. Not to mention the Marquis of Purple Robe, even Dongfangli would not be able to bear it. He would probably start a massacre and exterminate the Lin family. Even Guo Chuandong was so scared that his legs trembled. If he had known, he would not have followed Jiang Tian to join the Lin family. If a war broke out, would he be able to escape? He did not dare to imagine what kind of bloody and cruel situation would follow. Chapter 1844. You can beat me to death. But if you want to save the princess's life, no one can. Under everyone's incredulous gazes, Jiang Tian, accompanied by Lin Yang, walked in lazily. His face was calm and relaxed. Even when facing Purple Marquis and the second prince, he was not weaker. Seeing that Jiang Tian turned a deaf ear to his persuasion, Lin Hanqing was depressed and anxious. He closed his eyes in despair, knowing that things were bad. Who is this person? From what he said, it seems that he can save my sister. Dongfang Li's face was originally full of anger, but when he heard this, his eyes lit up as if he saw a glimmer of hope. Reporting to the second prince, this person is the head of our master group, Siqing Sanren. He once defeated Zhang Muyun with 1 palm and may be a divine nascent soul stage nascent soul. Lin Hanqing did not dare to speak, but Lin Yang said loudly. In order to prevent Jiang Tian from being looked down upon, he deliberately raised Jiang Tian's status. Fellow Daoist Siqing just said that he is proficient in medicine and alchemy, and has a way to cure the princess. Is that true? Dongfang Li was ecstatic. Even as the second prince and a soul formation stage cultivator, he could not help but be excited. The reason why Purple Marquis could stir up trouble and be so aggressive, putting Zhenyuan Marquis and himself in a dilemma, was it not because of the princess's strange illness? If he could cure her, everything would naturally be solved, and Purple Marquis would have no reason to make trouble. Besides, he was like Lin Yang, a crazy protector of his sister. As long as he could save his sister, he would not hesitate to give up his supreme power and power. Siqing Sanren. So it's him. Marquis Shanshui was so angry that he almost jumped up and bowed. Reporting to the second prince, I know this person. He is an itinerant cultivator from the Black Sun Space Zone, a ruffian from a remote place. His cultivation is weak, and he has no knowledge at all. He is nothing but a swindler. How can he be capable of curing the princess? You know him? The second prince turned his head and asked with interest. Although I haven't seen him with my own eyes, I would recognize him even if he turned to ashes. The Marquis of Shanshui's expression darkened as he said furiously, a month ago, the vice sect master of Vast Sky Sect, Lei Qianjun, led a large group of cultivators to Greenwave City to kill my son, Li Ludao. Without saying a word, he destroyed my son's dantian and meridians, causing him to lose his cultivation. I was furious, so I went to Haotian sect to seek justice. As it turned out, Lei Qianjun had believed this brat's slanderous words, saying that Li Ludao had murdered Qin Xiong, Blood Monk, and several other heavenly sect outer court elders on the Bamboo Horse planet. This is simply outrageous. My son wasn't even on Zhuma Star that day. When Lin Yang heard this, he couldn't help but exclaim in admiration. Li Ludao only condensed his golden core 3 years earlier than me, yet he repeatedly mocked me for being trash. Who would have thought that his dantian would be destroyed? It was likely that he would not be able to cultivate in the future. If I'm a loser, then what is he? Trash among trash. Oh, I didn't expect that Marquis Li would suffer such an unexpected misfortune. The Haotian sect is really brainless. Marquis Li was only in the Golden Core realm. How could he have the ability to kill Qin Xiong and Blood Monk? It was like an ant trying to shake a tree. This is so unfair, so unfair. Didn't you fight with the Haotian sect? Although Lin Hanqing's face was full of regret, he was overjoyed in his heart. After all, the Marquis of Shanshui had threatened to kill his daughter, saying that she would be punished severely by being beaten to death. Your son is your son, but my daughter is not made of mud or picked up. Lin Yang, you're gloating. Hearing this, the Marquis of Shanshui flew into a rage. He cursed in his heart, damn it, you're touching my sore spot. I do want to fight with the Haotian sect, but their sect master is much more powerful than Lei Qianjun, and they have several semi-god realm cultivators. Can I defeat them? He glared and roared, okay, I understand now. This Siqing cultivator was set up by you. You wanted to harm my son, didn't you? Today, I will take my revenge. I will tear Siqing into pieces and report you and your son to the emperor. Marquis of Shanshui, I'm innocent. Jiang Tian said with a smile. This is my first time in the Saint Origin world. How could I know Lin Yang and the others? This is all a misunderstanding. I did hear that person call himself Marquis Li Ludao. Qin Xiong and Blood Monk also called him Marquis Li Ludao. Therefore, when Lei Qianjun and the others from the Haotian sect asked about it, I told them the truth. Maybe someone pretended to be Marquis Li Ludao. But even Qin Xiong and the others who were close to him didn't recognize him. How could you blame me? After all, I came from a remote place. My magic power is weak, and my vision is shallow. With just a few words, he cleared himself of all responsibility. You're innocent. Someone pretended to be you. You can't be blamed. Marquis of Shanshui was so angry that his face turned red. He was tongue-tied and incoherent. In the end, he roared, bullshit. You must have purposely tried to frame me. I will definitely kill you. As he spoke, he unleashed his aura and charged at Jiang Tian. How dare you? Suddenly, the second prince hit Marquis of Shanshui with his palm and said coldly, Siqing cultivator wants to cure the princess, but you want to kill her. Do you want to kill the princess? I don't dare. Marquis of Shanshui got up and hurriedly bowed. He gritted his teeth and stared at Jiang Tian. The second prince turned around and smiled, fellow Taoist Siqing, can you really cure my sister? Do you have a good plan? Just say it. Even if you're wrong, I will forgive you. If you can come up with a good plan that is within the scope of this prince's ability, any reward is not a problem. Reward? That's not necessary. Jiang Tian smiled brightly and said casually, as the saying goes, everyone is responsible for the prosperity of the world. Although I came from the wilderness outside the river, I also know the principle of being loyal to the king and serving the country. This Eastern Empire is the world of the Eastern Imperial family. Curing the princess's illness is the same as governing the world. I only want to benefit the country and not seek riches. Old Demon Jiang was quite the hypocrite. Ever since he left the homeworld, his attitude had changed drastically. Earth, his homeland, was the place where he was born and raised. He naturally had to protect it at all costs. However, the Eastern Empire had nothing to do with him. When did he have the slightest respect for the royal family? Other than protecting his friends in his previous life, he only wanted to improve his cultivation. It was no exaggeration to say that if necessary, he would immediately destroy the Eastern Empire. I don't dare to worry about the country. Everyone is responsible for the prosperity of the world. I don't ask for riches and honor. Mister's words are so fresh and pleasant to the ears. Second Prince Dongfangli clapped his hands and praised. He felt that Jiang Tian was very pleasing to the eye and even admired him. Even the way he addressed him had changed. If all the dukes in the world were as loyal and righteous as you, how could there be chaos and suffering? Even Dongfangling looked at Jiang Tian in disbelief, her watery eyes blossoming with splendor. Chapter 1845. In fact, the Dongfang siblings had such a reaction because of the current situation. At this time, the Eastern Empire was a bit like the ancient Hua-Xia warring states period. Although the royal family still existed, it had long been poor and weak. It only maintained the name of the world's ruler, but did not have the ability to control. The major vassal states had already begun to merge and compete with each other. The imperial power was simply unable to command the world and control the vassals. Therefore, when Zhang Muyun was about to attack Jiang Tian, and Fang Guyu stopped him, Zhang Muyun said, "He only has a family and no country." After all, his salary came from the Lin family and had nothing to do with the Eastern Empire. Naturally, he did not care about the Fang family. The Dongfang royal family was despised by the major vassals. Today, when the siblings heard Jiang Tian's cliché, "Today," it was very pleasing to the ear, as if they were listening to heavenly music. Then in your opinion, what illness does the princess have? Dongfang Li asked curiously. Actually, the princess is not sick. When Jiang Tian said this, Dongfang Li's face suddenly stiffened, and he wished he could kick Jiang Tian away. But, after all, he had to maintain the dignity of the royal family. He reminded himself to calm down. Even if this kid was talking nonsense, he had to let him finish. The Lin family was also dumbfounded. Lin Dai, gritted her teeth and said, "Humph. I knew you wouldn't understand. You're trying to please the crowd with claptrap. You're so arrogant." But the Marquis of Shanshui could not stand it. He jumped up and roared, "You dare to tease the second prince, you're courting death." Jiang Tian smiled leisurely, "Your Highness, I'm diagnosing the princess, but this kid keeps jumping up and down, making me confused. How am I going to treat her now?" When Dongfang Li heard that Jiang Tian had not finished speaking, he immediately flung his sleeve and said with a dark face, "Marquis of Shanshui, stand down. Your Majesty, this kid is misleading the public with his lies, he should be executed, stand down. Do you really think the dignity of the royal family is easy to bully?" Dongfang Li was very angry. It doesn't matter if you hide evil intentions, bully Jin Yuan Ho, or punish Lin Dai, But now it concerns the life and death of my sister, and you dare to come out and disturb. The Marquis of Shanshui could only swallow his anger and retreat obediently. He was so angry that his entire body was trembling. He was just a lackey of the Marquis of Purple Robe. He dared to bully the Marquis of Jinyuan's Lin clan, but that did not mean that he dared to contradict the second prince and offend the imperial family. After all, a centipede dies but never falls down. If the Eastern imperial family wanted to crush him, the Marquis of Shanshui, it would not be a problem. Jiang Tian smiled lightly and said, "Your Highness, may this humble one be so bold as to ask, on the day your Highness was born, did 9 dogs swallow the sun?" When Dongfang Li heard this, his expression changed drastically, as if he had seen a ghost. The so-called 9 dogs devouring the sun was actually a total of 9 continents and planets that covered the stars of this region, forming a solar eclipse phenomenon that caused continuous days of darkness. There was even demonic chi that emerged from the earth and the sky, and demonic creatures appeared. This kind of celestial phenomenon was extremely rare. Regardless of whether it was in the mortal world or the world of cultivation, it had always been regarded as an omen of great calamity. Because of this, when Dong Fangying was born, the imperial concubines spent a lot of money to bribe the imperial medical hall. They did not immediately report it to the king, but waited until after the solar eclipse ended. Even the history books recorded it as such. This secret, even the king did not know. Not only your highness, but when your highness's mother was born, it should also be 9 stars in the sky, and the heavenly dog devouring the sun. The 9 generations of women, on the day of birth, all had the heavenly dog devouring the sun. In this way, after 9 generations, the qi of yang was missing. By the 9th generation, they would have the 9-yin body. When Jiang Tian said 9-yin body, he could not help but sigh. Because of this problem, it had troubled the Saint Origin world for hundreds of years. The children born on this day were all declared to be trash, unable to cultivate. But in fact, the 9-yin body was not a trash body, but an extremely powerful quasi-immortal body, at least surpassing the saint body. If one cultivated a suitable cultivation method, they could cultivate to the void return realm, be called a saint, or even reach the Tao fusing realm. However, due to the low cultivation civilization, it was not until hundreds of years later, when the 9 great immortal sects, whose cultivation civilization was even more prosperous, arrived in the Saint Origin world that this situation changed. At that time, the 9-yin body was known as the seed of a saint, and almost all the major sects worshipped them as the Golden Boy and Jade Girl. They would even be brought to the 9 great immortal sects, like a fish leaping through the dragon gate, ascending to the sky and becoming a true dragon of the 9 heavens. However, Dong Fangying had already turned into a pile of yellow soil and a few withered bones. 9-yin body. The marquises and ministers in the hall whispered. Obviously, they had never heard of this term before. However, seeing how Jiang Tian described it so vividly, they were still skeptical. After a long time, Dong Fangli came back to his senses. At this moment, he was simply worshipping Jiang Tian like a god, worshipping him to the extreme. He could see through his sister's rare body at a glance, this was simply a godlike existence. Just as he was about to ask, the Marquis of Shanshui, who was quickly flipping through the history jade slip, suddenly jumped up and shouted, "Your Highness, this kid is full of nonsense." When Her Highness was born, the 9 dogs swallowing the sun ended. The historian also said that Her Highness was blessed by the heavens and chased away the heavenly dog. Isn't he slandering Her Highness by talking nonsense like this? He should be killed, his entire family should be executed. Shut up. Do you still want me to slap your mouth? Dong Fangli was completely enraged. The Marquis of Shanshui was stunned and repeatedly said yes. Dong Fangli looked at Jiang Tian and smiled, "Fellow Taoist Xiqing, can my sister's 9-yin body be cured?" Jiang Tian did not immediately answer, but lazily yawned and said with a smile, "This body is very complicated and difficult to reconcile. I was thinking of a countermeasure, but this guy said that his entire family should be executed, and he said that he should be killed for his crime, scaring my thoughts. For a moment, it's hard to think." As he spoke, he walked in front of the Marquis of Shanshui and scolded righteously, "You brat, jump up and down, only thinking of killing me to avenge your useless son. Have you really considered the princess's illness? Treating the princess's illness, such a sacred and important matter, what is it in your eyes? How did it become a tool to suppress political opponents and bully the good? Marquis of Shanshui, I, Jiang Xiqing, am only a rogue cultivator without any roots, not worth mentioning. You keep saying that you want to kill me, that's fine. But who will treat the princess's illness? Could it be that you, a so-called loyal official, want Her Highness to weep and Her Highness to die here? I definitely don't mean that. You're slandering me." The Marquis of Shanshui looked at the surrounding ministers that he had a good relationship with, but found that they very consciously took a few steps back, very cleverly keeping a distance from him. For a moment, the Marquis of Shanshui felt a chill all over his body. He sadly found that none of his colleagues and best friends dared to speak up for him, as if he was isolated by the entire world. "Your cultivation is powerful, you have a noble title, you have a high position and power, then you come out and tell me how the princess's cold illness was caused? Jiang Tian deliberately teased this great enemy of his previous life. Every word was vicious, like an arrow shooting at the Marquis of Shanshui. Your son was crippled by the Haotian sect, every injustice has its perpetrator and every debt has its debtor, go and find them. You don't have the ability, but you're narrow-minded and jealous, so you can only vent your anger on an innocent person like me. You're too useless. Being useless is a small matter, but the point is, deceiving the emperor, disloyal and unloyal. It made the Marquis of Shanshui feel as if his heart was pierced by thousands of arrows. He was ashamed and angry at the same time, his qi and blood attacked his heart, and he was so angry that he spat out a mouthful of blood. Puff! The Marquis of Shanshui vomited blood on the spot. He was angry and anxious, his face was as white as paper, and his whole body was trembling as he said, "Your Highness, I'm not an unloyal official, everything is fate." Seeing this scene, Lin Hanqing only felt one word, cool. Even if Jiang Tian did not have the ability to cure the princess, he had already won a great victory. From the second prince's expression, it could be seen that the cause of the illness that Jiang Tian said was absolutely true, and based on this, he could get rid of the suspicion of Lin Dyer. Damn it, can't you kill someone without a knife? Brother Jiang is too powerful. Lin Yang could be considered to have opened his eyes. He felt that he was very good at talking, but compared to Jiang Tian, he was willing to admit defeat. However, Jiang Tian wasn't a simple talker. All of this was based on the premise that he accurately judged the cause of the princess's illness, and made the second prince believe in him. In this way, he had the advantage, and no one could stop him from reprimanding the Marquis of Shanshui.